It was from the Cataclysm. I can illuminate the technological tree. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 551 Yongchang. Simple calculation. Unlike the human fleet, the Botha fleet was filled with a celebratory atmosphere at this time. Commander, the results of the battle exceeded our imagination. They have no idea how powerful the curvature weapon is. Listening to the voices around him, Commander Botha also relaxed his originally stiff body a little. It raised the two pairs of forelimbs on its chest and moved them a little. Looking at the chaotic enemy fleet in the picture, it showed a trace of regret in its eyes. Unfortunately, we have not yet fully mastered this weapon. Ensuring the stability of the curvature bomb is still an unresolved problem for us. Otherwise, we can use curvature bombs outside the star system. This is the difficult gap between the 5th level civilization and the 4th level civilization. While speaking, Commander Botha gestured in front of him. They don't even know where the attack came from. Commander, if we complete the Lord's order this time, the large stick insect next to him said in a low voice, we may be able to get some of the Lord's blessings again, just like last time. The large stick insect turned its head and scanned the surroundings and said in a lower voice. Hearing this, Commander Botha's eyes suddenly lit up. It was extremely impressed. In the last gift ceremony, Botha civilization successfully obtained the Grand Unified Theory and became a level 5 civilization. If there is another such gift ceremony, thinking of this, the breathing hole on the side of Commander Botha's body instantly enlarged. It breathed hard and spurted out streams of hot gas from the breathing hole. Continue. Before they react, continue to use the curvature bomb. Abnormal gravitational fluctuations are detected. Abnormal gravitational points are generated inside the Botha fleet. Before the Golden Crow fleet reorganized its offensive, the piercing alarm sounded again. The command center was already in chaos. Every scientific researcher in the relevant profession was concentrating on the data sent back by various detectors, trying to find the so-called rules from these complicated data. On the side, Zhao Ziji and a group of military commanders were full of anxiety. But no one spoke to urge all military commanders are very clear that the current battlefield can no longer be saved by so-called tactics in the face of this new means of attack. The role of tactics is infinitely reduced. To win this war, this group of scientists must find corresponding countermeasures, and this is also the main reason why the number of scientists in the command center is superior, and it is also the fundamental reason why the Academy of Sciences can surpass all departments. As for Yongchang, dozens of small holographic projections were unfolded in front of him at this time. In each holographic projection, various complex data flashed rapidly. Just a glance, Zhao Ziji felt dazzled. Not to mention seeing anything. He couldn't even take into account the rapidly flashing data in these holographic projections at the same time. Really? A monster. He looked at Yongchang, who was processing various data in an orderly manner, and sighed in a very low voice. Zhao Ziji, Yongchang suddenly spoke without looking up. Zhao Ziji trembled slightly and subconsciously straightened his back. Here, watching Yongchang quickly process the data, Zhao Ziji suddenly had an idea in his mind. Will the mumbling just now be heard? The next second, notify the 2nd, 6th, and 8th fleets to spread out as much as possible. The next attack target is likely to be them. Yongchang still did not raise his head, but just buried his head in observing various data. Zhao Ziji's expression became solemn, and the distracting thoughts in his mind were swept away. Without any hesitation, he directly pressed the communication button for the entire fleet and conveyed the order from Yongchang. The Golden Crow fleet, which had already begun to evacuate, accelerated the evacuation speed again under Zhao Ziji's order. Under the full force of the antimatter engine, the Golden Crow fleet quickly spread around like a frightened bird. A few seconds later, a dazzling light burst out from the 2nd, 6th, and 8th fleets. At the same time, the alarm from the detector continued to echo in everyone's ears. However, compared with the last time. This time, everyone's faces were a little more relieved. 0. Report the battle situation, LV. Yongchang asked calmly, calculating. In the second round of gravity bomb attack, we lost 177 Golden Crow battleships. Zhao Ziji's eyes suddenly flashed with joy. From 623 to 177. This is simply a rapid improvement. But there was no smile on LV Yongchang's face point under Zhao Ziji's gaze. LV Yongchang frowned and shook his head slowly. Not enough. The loss rate is too high. Continue. To disperse the formation? Zhao Ziji hesitated and asked back. No. LV Yongchang didn't think about it and directly rejected Zhao Ziji's proposal. Dispersing the formation can indeed greatly reduce the lethality of gravity bombs, but at the same time, it will also greatly weaken the strength of our fleet. By then, the enemy ship is likely to choose a direction to break through. Once it breaks through the third defense area, it will be difficult to win this war. Yongchang, you just... Fang Zhu interrupted the conversation between the two and asked with a puzzled look on his face, how do you determine the attack area of the gravity bomb? Like LV Yongchang, Fang Zhu and others were also observing the same gravity fluctuation data, but they did not reach this conclusion point. Fang Zhu's question immediately attracted the attention of a group of scientific researchers considering that the Botha fleet is likely to launch another attack. LV Yongchang speeded up his speech and briefly explained it. It's actually very simple, since it is confirmed that the weapons used by the Botha fleet have the ability to sail in curvature. We only need to check the gravity fluctuation points in the battlefield area, as he said. LV Yongchang stretched out his hand to enlarge the holographic projection in front of him so that the picture in it was clearly presented in front of everyone. Just now, a total of 367,491 detectors detected extremely weak gravitational fluctuations within 2 seconds. The gravitational fluctuations of each detector are slightly different, strong or weak, early or late. LV Yongchang said softly. Therefore, I asked Zero to do a simple calculation, and through these 367,491 gravitational fluctuation points, I derived the 10 most likely attack routes. Among them, the 1st and 4th fleets have just been attacked, and the fleets are relatively scattered, so they are excluded. If we exclude some repeated routes, we can basically determine the attack target of the Botha fleet. In addition, LV Yongchang lightly threw out a heavy information. According to Zero's calculation results, after entering the curvature navigation, the speed of the gravitational bomb is about 10 times the speed of light. Chapter 552. Gravity Float. A gasp suddenly sounded in the command center. Hiss. Not only was everyone amazed at the extremely high speed of the gravity bomb, but they were also amazed at the method described by LV Yongchang. It sounds really simple, but to really do it, it is still necessary to complete the screening and inspection of these data in such a short time. Is this really something that humans can do? For a moment, even Fang Zhu's eyes turned strange when he looked at LV Yongchang. LV Yongchang also noticed the strangeness in everyone's eyes, but at this time, his mind was all on the gravity bombs launched by the enemy ship. He spread his hands helplessly. I know this method is a bit stupid. No way. At present, we have no means of observation for the starship entering the curvature navigation state. It is only possible to capture its track by conducting a carpet-style investigation through the weak gravitational changes. Therefore, LV Yongchang paused slightly. We need a large number of detectors. A lot of detectors. He emphasized again, only by real-time monitoring of the gravitational fluctuations of the entire battlefield can we implement evasive operations in advance. After a speech, everyone temporarily put aside their amazement about LV Yongchang. Ko Liang's steady voice sounded on the side. Professor, the existing detectors can be reduced and modified. Only the most basic gravitational detection module and communication module are needed on each detector. We can remove all other functions, including the power system. It only needs to be in a fixed area, just like. Ko Liang paused, as if he was considering his words. Suddenly, his eyes brightened. He stroked his palm and said loudly, float. Yes, it's a float. LV Yongchang was stunned for a moment, then suddenly realized point, very vivid point, just like the float used for fishing. This simplest gravity detector, when scattered all over the battlefield, can help humans find the gravity bombs lurking in the universe. Design. Plan. It will be ready soon. Ko Liang-K quickly operated the holographic projection in front of him. The basic detector is a modular design. I only need to make a slight change to put it into production. LV. Yongchang nodded with satisfaction and added, reduce its size as much as possible to reduce the possibility of it being attacked. Okay. While nodding, Ko Liang-K quickly waved his fingers a few times and made some changes to the original design plan. Lu Yongchang turned his head and looked at Zero. Adjust the computing power allocation immediately. Put the manufacturing of gravity float as the first priority. I want to see it cover the entire battlefield. Received. Accompanied by Zero's electronic synthesized voice, Space Factories quickly stopped their original manufacturing work point at the same time. A new manufacturing task began to run, like laying eggs, one after another. Gravity float, equipped with only gravity detection function, appeared at the end of the production line. Because there is no power system, one drone after another, under Zero's control, dragged these gravity float towards the designated area. Bosa fleet point looking at the latest data presented in front of him. A large stick insect showed a hint of disappointment on his face. Commander, the effect of the curvature bomb has decreased. It's normal. Commander Bosa looked calm. This is the defect of the gravity bomb. However, this is precisely the advantage of the gravity bomb. Did you find it? Their fleet is much looser than before. Isn't this just right? Commander Bosa's small eyes flashed with fanatical eyes. Directly break through their defense line. I want to see how they produce these annoying little gadgets after destroying their production equipment. As he said, he glared fiercely at the drone outside the porthole that was rushing towards the warship without hesitation. A ball of fire from the explosion lit up outside the porthole, illuminating its side face covered with a layer of exoskeleton. It retracted its disgusted gaze and shouted loudly, tighten the outer defense and break forward. Wait. The shout of a large stick insect interrupted Commander Boss's voice. The enemy fleet is also tightening its front. They have noticed our intention. Commander Bossa, who was interrupted, quickly glanced at the picture in the active detection device and couldn't help cursing angrily. Damn it, this group of cunning 4th level bugs keep firing curvature bombs. I will bomb them so hard that they dare not tighten their fronts. Commander, a Bossa crew member shouted in a high-pitched voice. The other side has sent out drones again. Commander Bossa sneered. Is it the same attack mode again? When the drones get close, use gravity bombs to bomb them. It showed a hint of disdain in its eyes and snorted coldly. I want to see how many drones this ugly 4th level bug can make. Under the gaze of a group of Bossa people, these drones quickly came to the center of the two fleets. Then, after a short pause, they turned around and left. This Commander Bossa was confused. What do they want to do? A crew member quickly mobilized a detector and came to the area where the drone had stopped under endless gunfire. Finally, after sacrificing the lives of thousands of detectors, Commander Bossa got an image. A very small detector compared with warships that are thousands of meters long. This cube detector with a side length of less than 1 meter seems particularly small. Commander, the analysis results are out. The detector only has the function of gravity detection, and the detection accuracy is very low. According to my guess, the human fleet should rely on these detectors to find the root of the curvature bomb. Hearing the speech of his subordinates, Commander Bossa couldn't help laughing. Interesting, very interesting. Its body trembled slightly, its breathing holes opened and closed quickly, and the mouthparts on its head squirmed rapidly. No wonder the Lord paid attention to them. They actually want to use these crude detectors to find the gravity bombs that have entered the curvature flight state. The crew of Bossa on the side couldn't help laughing. The maximum speed of the curvature bomb reached 10 times the speed of light, and it took only 50 seconds from launch to hitting the target point. In other words, from the detector observing the gravitational fluctuations to the completion of the determination of the impact area, to the warship completing the evasive action. All operations must be compressed within 25 seconds, Commander. Bosa sneered and shook his head. While they are tightening their lines, continue to launch curvature bombs. If this group of level 4 bugs can use this to evade the attack of curvature bombs, then there will not be such a big gap between level 5 civilization and level 4 civilization. P.S. Thanks to the great certification of Julie. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 553 Rogue. As Commander Bossa finished speaking, several black spherical weapons flew out from the bombing port of Bossa's flagship again point, accompanied by a slight gravitational fluctuation point. These black spherical weapons disappeared into the visible universe again point. The Bossa fleet continued to execute the original breakout plan point. The antimatter engine was filled with extremely strong gamma rays, and these particle flows close to the speed of light constantly pushed the fleet forward. In the distance point, the human fleet. Earth Command Center looking at the progress bar slowly advancing in the holographic projection. LV Yongchang's eyes flashed with anxiety. Quick. He clenched his fists slightly and muttered in his heart, point only before the next round of attack, when all the gravitational floats are deployed, will humans have a chance to avoid the attack? Weak gravitational fluctuations detected near the enemy fleet. Gravitational floats have been deployed. One after another, 2 electronic prompts sounded in the command center. At the moment he heard the second prompt tone, LV Yongchang slightly loosened his clenched hands and breathed a sigh of relief. 0. Start all gravitational floats immediately. The next moment, point around the human fleet. In the dark and cold space, a small cube surface lit up with a little working indicator light. Gravitational float successfully started receiving data. Hearing this, LV Yongchang hurriedly sat up straight, completely cleared his mind of distracting thoughts, and focused his attention on the holographic projections in front of him. Fang Zhu, you are responsible for checking the data in Area A1. Tao Yuda, you are responsible for checking the gravity signal in Area A2. Ko Liang K, Area B1. D. Bilin, Area C5. Commands were issued one after another, and the entire command center quickly became busy. Point almost at the same time, continuous signals appeared in the holographic projections in front of all scientific researchers. Just like the fish in the pond touched the hook, the gravity bomb that entered the curvature navigation state also constantly touched the gravity float, scattered in the starry sky. Point at this moment, almost all factories stopped their original production tasks according to the order issued by LV Yongchang. 0 almost concentrated all his computing power on the analysis task in front of him. In just a few seconds, a series of possible path maps appeared on the huge holographic projection in front of him. Point as time went on, more and more data came from the gravity float, and the path map became more and more perfect. The attack point of the curvature bomb also came into everyone's eyes. 0. LV Yongchang shouted, take over control, maneuver, and evade immediately. The next second, 0 took over the control permission of the Golden Crow battleship within the attack range. Point at the same time, a large amount of positive and negative matter was thrown into the annihilation room, and it kept approaching under the control of the magnetic field until it touched. Incredibly huge amounts of energy were released from it instantly, and charged mesons at a speed of 94% of the speed of light rushed straight to the nozzle of the antimatter engine under the control of the magnetic field. Boom. These charged particles rushed out of the nozzle with extremely high intensity gamma ray bursts. The huge Golden Crow battleship instantly accelerated and scattered around under the drive of this extremely powerful energy, thanks to the deep sea cabin and human body enhancement engineering. The current crew can fully withstand the super acceleration brought by the annihilation of positive and negative matter. The camera zoomed out, and even with the naked eye, it could be seen that 16 huge pits gradually appeared in the originally neat Golden Crow Fleet point at this time. Less than 20 seconds had passed since the curvature bomb entered the detection range of the gravity float. A dazzling light bloomed in the Golden Crow. Fleet point. The extremely sharp alarm in the command center also sounded, shaking the minds of a group of scientific researchers. A total of 16 gravity bombs were attacked this time. 8 warships crashed. 67 warships had varying degrees of damage to their outer armor. A round of warm applause rang out in the command center, and every researcher's face was filled with excitement. Ahem. Looking at the cheers of the crowd, LV Yongchang coughed lightly. The originally noisy command center quickly quieted down. Everyone, the war is not over yet. We just avoided one round of the opponent's offensive, and it is far from time to celebrate. LV Yongchang said with an extremely serious look. You can't win this war just by hiding. LV Yongchang's words were like a basin of ice water, directly poured on the heads of a group of researchers. Some of the excitement in the command center quickly receded. After seeing everyone return to calm, LV Yongchang continued. Now, what we need to consider is how to counterattack the both fleet. Faced with this super light speed attack method, we have only one choice: close the distance and fight hand to hand. A group of researchers nodded one after another. This is the most shameless method. Once close, even if the enemy's shells can fly at a speed of 1,000 times the speed of light, it will not have much effect. At the moment when the enemy ship attacks, our attack will also fall on the enemy ship. This way, the war has changed. From a competition of weapon range, it has turned into a competition of which fleet is more resistant to attack. Use your own strengths to hit the opponent's weaknesses. Notify the fleet to continue to close the distance with the enemy ships. Prepare to send out the battering ram. LV Yongchang hesitated for a while and then gave an order again. Launch the Guangwei 1 antimatter cannon and dimensional strike ship once the third defense area is lost. Unconditional attack. PS. Sent. It's too early to be happy. I may have to take a break these 2 days and try to keep updating. Chapter 554. The Lord will not make mistakes. Commander, the warp bomb detonated successfully. The results are almost zero. In the Bossa fleet, the faces of all the large stick insects turned ugly. Especially Commander Botha. He looked at the scene in front of him with disbelief. Impossible. This is impossible. It unconsciously waved the 2 pairs of forelimbs on its chest and murmured in a low voice. The Lord said that no level 4 civilization can withstand curvature weapons. In case a large stick insect hesitated and said a few syllables. Master, impossible. Commander Botha turned around suddenly and glared fiercely at the crew in front of him. The Lord makes no mistakes. The problem must lie with human civilization. Seeing the commander's devouring gaze and his mouthparts that were constantly moving, the crew member who had just spoken hurriedly closed his mouthparts. Seeing this, Commander Botha exhaled forcefully. Then, it turned its head again and looked fiercely at the human fleet in the detector screen. Commander, the human fleet has accelerated its advance. A crew member's report broke the strange atmosphere in the command room. They want to close the distance to weaken the effect of the warp bomb. At this time, Commander Botha's eyes were filled with blood, and he shouted sternly, "Continue to launch warp bombs. All fleets, keep moving forward." Commander. There was a trace of doubt in the eyes of the large stick insect who reported the situation. In its opinion, the best thing to do at this time is to keep the distance from the enemy ship as far as possible, and rely on the power of the curvature bomb to continuously weaken the enemy ship. Although the war will take a long time, it is a relatively stable plan. The blood in Commander Botha's eyes became thicker, and his voice became sharper. I say, keep moving forward. To get the Lord's attention, we have to win clean and tidy. Think of the gift ceremony. Whether the Bossa civilization can go further depends on our choice. After these words, a flash of blood appeared in the eyes of every large stick insect in the command room. They breathed hard, trying their best to calm their inner agitation. Bossa fleet, charge at full speed, along with the reminders one after another. The computing power of zero consumption continues to rise. Grass, Zao, Ziggy took advantage of his free time and cursed angrily. Are these stick insects crazy? Look how many gravity bombs they sent out. Listening to the curses beside him, Yongchang did not raise his head, but still focused on the data in front of him. It is normal to launch gravity bombs, but what makes me wonder is why they don't choose to keep their distance, but charge together. Hearing this, Ziggy quickly calmed down. Professor, you mean there is fraud? Yongchang shook his head and nodded hesitantly. I don't know either. I guess it may have something to do with the sweeper civilization. Sweepers are civilized? Ziggy looked at Yongchang in surprise. What does this mean? It's just a guess. Yongchang shook his head and once again focused on the data in front of him. No matter what the reason is, we can't retreat anymore. It's time for this war to come to an end. Captain Andrew. In the 3rd Fleet of the People's Federation, Golden Crow battleship, a message popped up in the deep sea cabin. According to the order from the Earth Command Center, in the next close battle, we need to use gamma ray cluster cannon to attack the organic life forms in the enemy ship. The purpose of this mission is to capture enemy ships to analyze relevant technologies and obtain antimatter energy required for the next interstellar voyage. Andrew, who was lying in the deep sea cabin, looked at the holographic projection in front of him and nodded thoughtfully. This makes the battle much more difficult. Bruno, check the gamma ray cannon. Joy, check the number of drones on the ship. Orders were issued in an orderly manner. Andrew took a hard sip of the deep sea liquid and stared at the starry sky and the holographic projection point at this moment. The artillery fire between the two fleets seemed much sparser. He knows this is the calm before the storm point. Each battleship charged at the other with full force point the moment the two sides come into contact. All the previously suppressed artillery fire will be released in an instant. Time passes little by little. There is silence in the universe. Even the gravity bombs that never stopped erupting fell silent at this moment. The Gliese 555 star system has once again returned to its former peace and tranquility. Andrew took a deep breath of the cool deep sea liquid, and his originally distracted attention also focused. Watching the numbers directly above the holographic projection continue to decrease. Andrew slowly closed his eyes. He knew that this quiet time would soon end. The next moment, he opened his eyes suddenly, and the brainwave reading device quickly issued orders to all crew members. Attention all units. Release the ship-based drone and activate the gamma ray cluster cannon. The order has just been issued. Boom. Outside the porthole, a dazzling white light flashed. Then there was the fire of explosion. With a piercing alarm, Andrew gradually realized what was happening. The Bosa fleet took the lead in launching an attack. Just now, an antimatter cannon composed of a large number of antiprotons hit a nearby Golden Crow battleship. The magnetic field shield only supported it for a moment before it was overloaded. This antimatter torrent directly hit the Golden Crow battleship, which had no time to perform a maneuver to evade. Annihilation ensued. Chapter 555 Gamma Ray Cluster Cannon. LAOLIU. Andrew suddenly widened his bloodshot eyes. A familiar name and appearance emerged in his mind, and then, in the flames of an explosion, the face with a faint smile began to twist until it turned into debris all over the sky. A sense of emptiness that he had not experienced for a long time instantly swept his heart. The next moment, this sense of emptiness was driven away by a surge of anger. Attention, all units. The attack came from the enemy's secondary flagship, and the attack type was initially determined to be an antimatter weapon. The power of the attack is unknown. It is initially determined that its power is close to the antimatter torrent emitted by a giant battering ram. After comprehensive judgment, it is a greater threat, and is listed as the first target of attack. In the holographic projection in front of the deep sea cabin, information from the command center of Earth emerged continuously. Andrew, we are locked. Andrew. In addition to the information from the command center, there is also information from the deputy captain. Andrew opened his bloodshot eyes with all his strength, and tears naturally gushed out from his tear glands, and then fell into the pale yellow deep sea fluid around him. Through the tears that spread around his eyes, Andrew saw the words in the holographic projection clearly. He came to his senses, and pulled his mind out of the Grief of the death of his old friend. Maneuver and evade immediately. He quickly gave the order. A strong recoil came along the deep sea fluid, causing his body suspended in it to shake violently several times. Even though the deep sea fluid greatly reduced the burden of huge acceleration on the human body, even though they had a body transformed by genetic enhancement technology, the acceleration of Golden Crow when performing maneuvering and evasive actions was not so comfortable. Looking at the rising utilization rate of the antimatter engine, Andrew bit his back teeth fiercely. The attack has been successfully evaded. Looking at the reminder text and the holographic projection, a trace of hatred ignited in Andrew's eyes. Lock on the Bosa secondary flagship that fired the antimatter cannon. Fire the gamma ray cluster gun. The voice fell. A buzzing sound came from the deck along with the deep sea fluid. A large number of anti-electrons were injected into the reaction chamber and then annihilated with electrons the next moment. Extremely violent gamma rays gushed out from the huge muzzle in the central area of the Golden Crow battleship, shooting directly at the secondary flagship not far away. Successful hit. A line of faint text emerged in the holographic projection. Andrew's eyes suddenly flashed with a hint of joy. Unlike ordinary weapons, the high energy gamma rays emitted by the gamma ray cluster gun have extremely high penetration and can cause great damage to carbon-based life forms. However, it does not take effect immediately. For humans, it takes about 10 seconds to take effect. For these large stick insects, who knows, but one thing is certain, as long as they are carbon-based organisms, the gamma rays that hit them directly will inevitably put their lives into countdown, unless 20 seconds have passed. Damn it, why is that secondary flagship still in action? Andrew used brainwaves to issue various orders, while cursing the enemy ship that took his friend's life in his heart. At the same time, he struggled to control the Golden Crow battleship to avoid the surrounding attacks and approach the secondary flagship that was constantly releasing antimatter cannons all around. Various small Botha battleships blocked the Golden Crow battleship's approach as if they were risking their lives. The same scene happened in the other 9 areas of this battlefield. 10 Botha secondary flagships were using the extremely powerful antimatter cannons to continuously carry out precise attacks on the human fleet at such a close distance. Even Zero could not avoid this antimatter cannon that was close to the speed of light. Therefore, every shelling meant the fall of a Golden Crow battleship. Whether it was for the victory of human civilization or revenge for his friends, Andrew's goal at this time was to eliminate the 10 secondary flagships that served as fixed artillery positions. However, no matter how many gamma rays they fired, it seemed that they could not affect the life forms inside them. Andrew's heart trembled slightly, and a bad idea emerged. Could it be that they were not afraid of high energy gamma rays? The next moment, a small battleship of Botha was overloaded and disappeared under various attacks from Golden Crow. Looking at the huge gap caused by the continuous attacks after the magnetic shield disappeared, Andrew suddenly woke up. Anti-radiation layer. Their battleships are also equipped with anti-radiation layers. Almost at the same time, information from Earth appeared in the holographic projection. The latest test results show that the enemy ship has a thicker anti-radiation layer, and the lethality caused by gamma rays is extremely limited. Change the target. Give priority to attacking small starships. Use gamma ray attacks after destroying the anti-radiation layer, and try to ensure the integrity of the enemy ship as much as possible while ensuring your own safety! Looking at the order from the command center, Andrew bit his back teeth hard and issued an order to shift the target of attack. He could understand the command center's approach. In Andrew's opinion, these Bosa's small warships are like risking their lives. Even if they are going to be destroyed in the next second, they will try to get as close as possible to the Golden Crow battleship in the last second and use their weapons to cause some damage to Golden Crow. If this continues, not to mention whether the Golden Crow battleship can successfully carry out the decapitation mission, these future spoils of war may be consumed. It's just like a shipborne drone. As this thought flashed through his mind, Andrew shuddered slightly. Human civilization has not made any aggressive behavior against them. He couldn't imagine what made an individual of a level 5 civilization so fanatical. P.S. I guess I will resume 2 updates the day after tomorrow. My condition is too bad after Yang. Chapter 556 Magnetic Field Shield Intrusion Technology. Looking at the increasingly crazy Bosa small battleship, Andrew did not hesitate at all, and directly changed the original combat order. The Golden Crow battleship abandoned the Bosa secondary flagship in the distance, and turned around to attack the small Bosa battleships that were harassing it. Even if it is a small battleship, even if it is only equipped with a magnetic field shield, it is still a battleship of a 5th level civilization. If you just rely on pure attacks, even the Golden Crow battleship will take a lot of time to break through its turtle shell. Unless use more powerful weapons or use tricky methods. This is the second team of the 3rd Fleet of the People's Federation. Captain Andrew is calling the command center. As a captain, he needs to ask his superiors for permission to use weapons. Received from the command center. Please speak, Captain Andrew. In the deep sea cabin, all information is presented in the holographic projection in front. Apply to enable the magnetic field shield intrusion function. Andrew sent this message without hesitation. After a short wait, the response from Earth appeared in front of him. Apply for approval. The entire fleet, activate the magnetic field shield invasion tactic, and quickly defeat all the enemy's small warships. Earth Command Center. A bright red warning popped up in the holographic projection in front of Yongchang. Warn. The planetary fortress of Faunus has insufficient antimatter reserves. Yongchang's face changed slightly. Before the war began, antimatter was given priority to be stored in various starships because of the upcoming interstellar voyage. As an immobile planetary fortress, phosphorus is naturally at the bottom of the priority list. After the war began, because the Pharos planetary fortress needed to continuously provide fire support to the front line, the antimatter consumption rate was not slow, and was even much faster than the average Golden Crow battleship. The antimatter cannon self-test is completed. The antimatter reserve is insufficient. Please replenish it immediately. Another bright red warning jumped out in front of Yongchang's eyes. Without any hesitation, he directly issued the order. 0. Bring the antimatter stored in Dyson Cloud over immediately. As the words fell, more than a dozen antimatter transport ships sailed out from the Dyson Cloud antimatter preparation area near Gliese 555. Driven by antimatter engines, these more than 10 antimatter transport ships are rushing to the Dawn Star area at full speed. Front. After receiving the approval, Andrew's spirit became much more exciting. As the captain, he knows the power of magnetic field intrusion technology better than anyone else. He looked at the small battleships surrounding the Golden Crow battleship in the holographic projection with cold eyes, and issued the order with an extremely calm expression. Attention all units. Enable magnetic field intrusion function. Free fire. Repeat. Free fire. Tear off the radiation proof armor of these stick insects. The order was given. After a brief stagnation, the originally quiet Golden Crow battleship suddenly became wild. Countless electromagnetic cannons fired at the surrounding small battleships, as if they were free of charge, with zero auxiliary aiming. The accuracy of this kind of strafing is not weaker than that of burst shooting. Next to the electromagnetic gun projectiles, there are ball lightning wrapped in thick blue plasma. Behind them, there is a group of ship-based drones that are like locusts, exuding a crazy aura. This impactful scene stopped the movements of those small Bosa battleships for a moment. Obviously, even those Bosa people who have been completely brainwashed have never seen such a battle, but the next second, these Bosa battleships came to their senses and accelerated to meet the attack of the Golden Crow battleship. While holding up the magnetic field shield, they launched powerful attacks one after another. Some of these attacks were directed at the Golden Crow battleship, and some were directed at electromagnetic guns and ball lightning. Both a fleet inside a small battleship. Sir, the crossfire interception success rate has reached 85%. A Large stick insect reported loudly. The stick insect standing on the podium heard this and nodded with satisfaction. This is thanks to the cooperation of all the small Botha battleships, and even more thanks to Commander Botha, who is on the flagship point under its guidance, facing the Golden Crow attack. Botha warships cooperated with each other to build a crossfire interception network. With this, they managed to intercept most of the railguns and ball lightning. Sir, there are still some shells. Facing questions from his subordinates, the large stick insect standing on the command podium waved its 2 pairs of forelimbs on its chest and spoke in a nonchalant tone. It doesn't matter. They pose no threat to battleships. From the Bothans' point of view, these small weapons are simply impossible to shake their extremely powerful magnetic field shields, and that's exactly what happened. Normally, these tickling attacks have basically no effect other than consuming some of the opponent's warship's energy. But soon, a scene that shocked all the Bothans appeared. Under the watchful eyes of all the Bothans, several electromagnetic cannon projectiles and ball lightning arrived near the high-strength magnetic field shield. Logically speaking, these electromagnetic gun projectiles should be deflected by the strong magnetic field point, but the expected scenario did not happen. They passed through the magnetic field shield area without any obstacles. Boom. In the blink of an eye, these electromagnetic cannon projectiles hit the small Botha warship hard. A violent tremor and sound came from the outer armor. Damn, where is the magnetic field shield? Who turned off the magnetic field shield? Commander Botha reached out to hold the command desk next to him and shouted sternly, "Captain, Commander, the magnetic field shield has been operating normally." A large stick insect raised its slightly trembling forelimbs and pointed at the screen in front of it and said tremblingly, Commander Botha raised his head suddenly. When it saw the data that the magnetic field shield was operating normally, it was also dumbfounded. What's going on? No one gave it an answer. Along with the bombardment of countless electromagnetic cannon projectiles, one after another increasingly violent tremors came from the outside world, and warning messages flashed wildly in front of it. P.S. I never expected that the virus would come back last night and my fever went up to 39 degrees. Chapter 557. Are you qualified to say that? Looking at the various data flashing on the display, it had to admit it panicked. Although it was only the captain of a small Botha warship, it also participated in several wars of varying sizes with the Botha fleet. Not to mention those second level or third level civilizations. It also participated in more than one war between fourth level civilizations, but it had never encountered such a strange scene. The magnetic field shield was clearly operating normally, but it did not play any blocking role. It was like this magnetic field shield was from the enemy civilization. This thought just emerged in its mind. Just like a sapling with roots, it grew into a towering tree in an instant. Just as he was about to think about the reasons, the warnings that kept popping up on the display and the high-pitched shouts of the crew pulled it out of his thoughts. Sir, the damage to the outer armor has reached 90%. The radiation protection layer is being damaged. Listening to this series of reports, its heart sank suddenly. In all the Botha warships, the radiation protection layer is located at the innermost part of the warship's armor layer. If even it begins to be damaged, then the warship can basically be declared dead. Thinking of this, the captain of this small Botha warship showed a hint of extreme fanaticism in his eyes. Everyone, get ready. A sharp cry interrupted the words on its lips. Captain, sir, the attack is suspended. It did not reply, but just stared blankly at the display screen in front of it. It was not blind yet. Of course it also saw this amazing picture. A large number of shipborne drones with blue plasma around them quietly hovered in front of their warships, as if waiting for something. At this time, the Botha warship, under the continuous bombardment of electromagnetic cannon projectiles, had already been tattered on the surface. Its eyes moved slightly and suddenly noticed a problem. It seems that all attacks of human civilization have only reached the radiation protection layer before it could think about the deep meaning. The strong flash outside the porthole deeply stung its eyes. At the same time, extremely sharp alarms sounded from all directions. Captain, Commander, sir, it's high energy gamma rays. Before the voice fell, it felt a strong sense of dizziness, and at the same time, a strong sense of vomiting. came up. It subconsciously opened its mouthparts, and a ball of thick green blood and internal organs gushed out of the mouthparts, splashing on the console in front of it. Shocking. This is not an isolated case. Similar scenes occurred in every corner of the battlefield. In order to prevent the Botha civilization from reacting to modify the algorithm of the magnetic field shield, with the assistance of Zero, all small Botha warships were attacked almost at the same time. At this moment, the interior of the Botha civilization flagship was already in chaos. Countless warning signs fell in front of all the large stick insects like snowflakes. Shield algorithm. Our magnetic shield algorithm has been cracked. After a brief thought, Commander Botha was shocked and told the truth. How is this possible? Not to mention that this is a war between level 4 and level 5 civilizations. Even if it is a war between level 6 civilizations, it has never heard of such a method. The reason is simple. It's too troublesome and too complicated. In a war, the central computer needs to perform a lot of calculations. Who would waste computing power on such a place in a normal civilization? Not to mention that each civilization is very different. For carbon-based organisms alone, the difference between the two civilizations may reach the level of realm and gate, not to mention the difference in culture and thinking mode. In this case, not to mention cracking the shield algorithm of the same level civilization. Even cracking the shield algorithm of a lower level civilization is a thankless task. It can be cracked by brute force. Why waste computing power to crack that useless shield algorithm? It's just, why didn't the human fleet take the opportunity to solve those small warships, but chose to stop? What are they going to do? An inexplicable sense of anxiety surged into Commander Botha's mind. Faced with this civilization that did not follow the routine, it fell into confusion for a while. Just as it was immersed in thinking, a shrill alarm sounded again in the command room. Commander, a large dose of gamma rays was detected. This sharp report sounded like a flash of lightning across Commander Botha's mind. I understand. I understand. A burst of fragmented sounds, like nails scratching glass, came out of its mouth. They want to seize our warships and get the corresponding technology from them. Commander Botha's expression suddenly became excited. He raised his two pairs of forelimbs, kept drawing circles on his chest, and muttered to himself, "This is a technology given to us by the Lord. I will never allow it to fall into the hands of heretics." His expression became serious, and he shouted sternly, "Notify all small warships to start the self-destruction program immediately." Earth, Professor, the gamma ray cluster guns have successfully hit the target. It is expected that the effect will be seen within 5 minutes. Zao. Zij's voice came from the side. LV Yongchang smiled and nodded. So far, the direction of the war is within his expectations. These Botha small warships can not only provide humans with sufficient antimatter energy, but also bring humans a series of 5th level civilization technologies such as curvature engines. At this moment, he seemed to realize a reason why the latter civilization is keen on war. "Professor, a communication request from an enemy warship is detected." Zero's electronic synthesized voice sounded in the speaker. After judgment, the signal comes from an enemy small warship. LV Yongchang, who had the experience of video communication once, nodded slightly and responded directly. "Connected." The holographic projection flickered slightly a few times, and the image inside quickly became clear. Unlike the first communication, this time the picture was filled with thick green liquid and unknown fragments. Among these filth, there were several large stick insects lying crookedly. He could even see the twitching limbs of these stick insects. LV Yongchang raised his eyebrows. It seems that the gamma ray cluster gun has worked. Green blood, Mao Zhengs, he muttered to himself. I don't know if it's caused by hemoglobin or something else. I have to find an opportunity to study it carefully. LV Yongchang's eyes twitched slightly, and he coughed twice, then glared at Mao Zhengzi. Pay attention to your image. This is a conversation between two civilizations. Mao Zhengzi looked at the holographic projection of Blood Hula in silence, and then looked at LV Yongchang with a serious face, and swallowed the words that came to his lips with difficulty. Are you qualified to say this? P.S. The fever has subsided, but it seems that I have gastroenteritis, vomiting and diarrhea. Lying on the bed and typing hard. I can only write one chapter. seeing that the author is so hard. It's not too much to ask for some gifts, cac. Chapter 558 Self-Destruction Program. The next moment, a shrill sound coming from the speakers drew everyone's attention. Yongchang turned his head and frowned as he looked at the large stick insect in the holographic image, which was half breathing and whose mouth pits were constantly squirming. 0 also synchronizes the translation content at the bottom of the hologram, just like subtitles looking at the gradually perfected subtitles. The originally relaxed expressions on Yongchang's and everyone else's faces gradually became serious. A despicable, cunning, and vicious human civilization. This is a technology and knowledge the Lord has given us. It will never fall into the hands of you heretics. Perhaps, due to the influence of gamma rays, the physical condition of this large stick insect has deteriorated again, with dark green blood and internal organ fragments pouring out of its mouth but uncontrollably. But even so, the fanatical gleam in its eyes still hasn't faded at all. Even against the backdrop of the surrounding environment, it looks even crazier. Its mouth pits kept moving, but the sounds it made gradually became weak and indistinct. The translation given by 0 also became choppy, destroy, clear. Although only a few simple words were translated, these words directly rang the alarm bell in everyone's mind. At the same time, in the holographic projection, the large stick insect raised its 2 pairs of forelimbs with difficulty and pressed 4 buttons on the console at the same time, etc. Yulu. Yongchang's face changed drastically, and just as he was about to speak, the communication screen quietly disappeared, leaving only a few bright red characters displayed in the holographic projection with a light blue background. The connection has been interrupted. Silence fell in the command center. Broken Fang. Zhu's murmur came from the side. Yongchang stared gloomily at the light blue blank holographic projection in front of him. Professor, the detector has observed an abnormal explosion. Electronic synthesizer sounds at the same time. The holographic projection screen automatically switched, and a small Bosa battleship appeared in front of everyone. Through the high-definition camera equipped with the detector, everyone in the command center can clearly see the explosions of fire on the surface of the battleship. It can be seen with the naked eye that most of the explosions are concentrated at the rear of the battleship. Among them, the explosion in the engine area was the most violent. Yongchang frowned slightly and asked softly, "What's the situation of the other small battleships?" The holographic projection screen began to switch rapidly, and at the same time, 0's electronic synthesized sound sounded again. So far, all Bossa battleships that have been attacked by gamma ray cluster cannons have experienced abnormal explosions. Looking at the flashing explosion scenes on the screen, Yongchang was silent for a long time and sighed with relief. The plan failed. We may not be able to get anything out of their starships. Judging from the distribution of explosions, the Botha civilization may have been prepared for this situation. These explosions did not even miss the weapons and equipment equipped on the battleship. He shook his head helplessly. I didn't expect that these stick insects, as level 5 civilizations, would be brainwashed to this extent. Cleaner civilization is really Yongchang's eyes flashed with deep fear and vigilance. He doesn't think that a civilization that cultivates this kind of subsidiary civilization will be an easy civilization to get along with, etc. Fang. Zhu suddenly interrupted Yongchang's words. Yongchang, they don't seem to have destroyed the antimatter storage device. Hearing this, Yongchang was stunned, and then quickly looked up at the holographic image again. In the picture, the explosion flames on the surface of the small battleship have slowly dissipated. The surface of the ellipsoidal battleship was full of pits, like a carrot with holes dug out on its surface. It was particularly ugly. However, there was no hint of disgust in Yongchang's eyes. Under the self-destruction program, these warships actually retained their basic appearance. This means that the explosion only destroyed various weapons and equipment, and did not affect the antimatter storage area of the battleship, because, let alone the Bosa's small battleship, even the antimatter equipped in the Golden Crow battleship is enough to blow the entire Golden Crow battleship into pieces. He didn't believe that a battleship with a 5th level civilization capable of warp navigation would contain less antimatter than a human Golden Crow. Battleship. Although it is unclear why these both small battleships chose to retain antimatter, Yongchang will definitely not let go of this golden opportunity. Zao. Ziji, notify the fleet to transport these scrapped small warships back as much as possible. Yongchang pondered for a moment, then spoke again and added, be careful not to let the other party discover our movements. You can send a drone to land and try to establish a connection with the ship's computer. If it's still working normally, Bosa. Flagship, Commander, all small warships have implemented self-destruction procedures. The loss of our fleet has reached 60%. A large stick insect reported nervously. In addition, our battleship's magnetic shield algorithm has completed preliminary changes. Commander. Botha listened to his men's report and nodded gloomily. They are just small warships, and will have little impact on the battle situation. Continue to use antimatter cannons and gravity bombs to attack and break through the last line of defense as soon as possible. Prepare to recover the antimatter storage unit in the small battleship. On the battlefield point, along with the explosion of the small battleship's self-destruction program, the number of powerful antimatter cannons and gravity bombs increased significantly in an instant. The Golden Crow battleship, which originally had a slight advantage, could only passively retreat in the face of such an offensive. It seems that human civilization is about to fall behind in this war. But when the Botha fleet did not notice, some of the shipborne drones took advantage of the explosion and broke away from the main force, shut down the surrounding plasma shields, and flew towards the small Botha battleships that stayed in place. P.S. The problem was found. I took the antipyretic and cold medicine together. Now that I have stopped taking the antipyretic, the vomiting and diarrhea have basically stopped, but my body is so weak that I may need to rest for 2 days before I can resume normal updates. Brothers, don't take medicine indiscriminately. I'm already cracked. Chapter 559. Battering ram arrives at the battlefield. Under the cover of artillery fire, these ship-based drones found their respective targets in tacit understanding. The drones did not take action immediately. Instead, it took a lot of time to find a suitable location. Then, they used the laser generator they carried to cut a hole in the weak spot of the Bosa's small battleship. Under Zero's intentional control, a burst of high-pressure gas mixed with thick green blood mist spurted out from a specific angle, providing a new power source for the Bosa battleship. Although this power will soon dissipate under its influence, these scrapped warships will slowly move away from the battlefield and buy some necessary time for the next action point. When all the drones entered the warship, a modified ship-based drone stayed at the gap in the armor and turned on a series of analytical instruments. Earth Command Center Yongchang frowned and looked at the analysis data that was constantly presented in the holographic projection. The outer armor of these small warships is not very strong. It seems a material similar to carbine alloy is also used. As he spoke, he shook his head slowly, with a strong look of disappointment in his eyes. As a result, these small battleships have almost no research value except for antimatter storage devices. No. A familiar but weak voice came from a little distance away. Professor, although the battleship is worthless, there are still Bosa people inside. Yongchang cast a questioning look at Mao Zengzi. Professor, look. Mao Zengzi operated the holographic projection in front of him and projected the picture in front of everyone. I just checked the simple analysis results of Botan blood. Preliminary analysis shows that their blood contains large amounts of highly toxic substances similar to biliverdin. In addition, the internal organs scattered in the cabin are also somewhat strange. Last point, we are not sure if the Botha fleet has any reinforcement with their corpses. Perhaps we can develop some targeted weapons and equipment. Hearing this, Yongchang's expression changed slightly, and he turned around and gave an order to Zero. Zero, let the shipborne drone bring back a few Botan corpses. Receive. Inside the Bosa's small battleship. Shipborne drones flew at low altitude in the dark cabin. Through the camera and high power lighting, you can see that the bulkhead is filled with thick green blood. Soon, when the first drone found the location of the ship's computer, the actions of all the drones in the small battleship sped up a bit. Under Zero's control, these drones flew in the direction of the ship's computer. Professor, The test results are out. An electronic synthesized voice sounded in the command center. All shipboard computers have been irreversibly damaged, and the internal data cannot be read. Regarding this news, Yongchang showed no surprise on his face. He just nodded lightly. Continue to search for the antimatter storage device. Once you find it, disassemble it and bring it back. Receive. Golden Crow battleship. The demise of the small bosser battleship did not relieve Andrew much pressure. The reason is simple. Although the size of the enemy fleet was greatly reduced, its core strength was not damaged. Whether it is antimatter cannons or gravity bombs, they are not weapons that the Golden Crow battleship can resist. Therefore, all human warships rely on the auxiliary control provided by Zero. To dance on the tip of the knife. A little carelessness could result in broken bones. He stared intently at the holographic projection in front of him and issued instructions one after another with the help of a brainwave reading device. Andrew. A message from Vice Captain Bruno flashed across the corner of his eye. The other party has changed the magnetic field shield algorithm. The weapons on the Golden Crow battleships pose no threat to their composite shields. We need more powerful weapons. Andrew bit his back molar hard. Doesn't he know this truth? But where would he find a more powerful weapon? Suddenly, a message from Earth appeared in front of his eyes. Attention, captains. The battering ram is about to arrive at the front line. Andrew's spirit suddenly lifted. If you really feel sleepy, give me a pillow. A powerful shield-breaking weapon is here. Without any hesitation, he gave the order directly to the crew. Attention all units. Cooperate with the battering ram to launch an attack on the enemy's medium and large warships. Outside world. As the Botha fleet approached step by step, the artillery fire between the two armies became more intensive. The originally dark and cold universe seemed lively at this moment. The high temperature plasma with golden arcs in the faint blue, the strong white light of antimatter explosions, the firelight of interstellar torpedoes and interstellar missile explosions. These various attacks from the human fleet caused ripples on the composite shield of the Botha fleet. Attack power is too low. Although some attacks broke through the outer magnetic shield, facing the inner gravitational shield, these weapons, which are still in the category of 4th level civilization, still seem a bit unsatisfactory. Soon, Andrew muttered silently in his mind, while ordering the cannon fire to be tilted at the enemy warships. Hold on for a little longer. Until the battle ram arrives successfully, and until the battle ram is successfully deployed, that's when humans will truly launch a counterattack. Finally, under Andrew's thoughts, a peculiarly shaped starship came to the side of the Golden Crow battleship under the cover of increasingly fierce artillery fire. Battle ram has successfully arrived at the designated area. A message appeared in front of Andrew, making his heart beat violently. As a special shield-breaking weapon with high attack and low defense, in this kind of battlefield, the battle ram needs to be protected by 2 or 3 Golden Crow battleships to operate normally. Under Zero's control, one of the battle ram slowly landed next to the battleship where Andrew was. Under Andrew's gaze, the drones surrounding the battle ram quickly changed their formation and flew forward. These drones followed the built-in program and quickly built an invisible gun barrel. Battle ram has been successfully deployed. The second message appeared. Then, while the magnetic field generating unit started to work, the invisible gun barrel began to fine-tune its direction, and the crochets firmly locked onto a Botha warship equipped with a composite shield. The next second, battering ram was officially activated. P.S. Starting tomorrow, I will resume updating twice a day. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 560 Breaking the Shield. accompanied by a tremor that was imperceptible to outsiders. A large amount of dark blue high-energy plasma gushed out from the internal pipes of the battery ram. At the same time, the drone that constructed the barrel also changed its magnetic field operation mode. The dark blue high-energy plasma began to slowly accelerate in the void barrel, and the golden electric light kept flashing around this powerful plasma column, and continued to extend to the end of the barrel 100 kilometers away. Such a scene happened in every corner of the battlefield. Almost at the same time, hundreds of dark blue plasma giant columns with increasing lengths appeared in the battlefield that was originally full of gunfire. The medium-sized Bosa battleship that was the target obviously also discovered this threatening attack. Its first reaction was to maneuver and evade. But at some point, two Golden Crow battleships came over from the side and temporarily blocked all its retreat routes with the help of a large number of shipborne drones. If you want to implement evasive operations, you must solve these obstacles around. This will consume a lot of energy and time. In desperation, the Botha warship could only choose to attack the battering ram. Trying to solve this exaggerated weapon from the source. Looking at the flashing warning of the impending attack in the holographic projection, Andrew, who was squatting next to the battering ram, gave the order without hesitation. A large number of shipborne drones, wrapped in the dark blue plasma shield, quickly flew to the vicinity of the battering ram and used their bodies to block the attacks for it. Finally, under the continuous acceleration of the magnetic field, this giant plasma column quickly came to the end of the barrel. Boom. Dark blue plasma gushed out from the mouth of the nothingness barrel constructed by the drone. With inertia, it rushed straight to the target in the distance, facing the upcoming attack. This medium-sized Botha warship has lost all chances to resist, and can only hold up its own composite shield, pinning its hopes on the extremely high-strength shield. The light of the antimatter engine at its tail was slightly dim, but the intensity of the gamma rays emitted did not weaken at all. Obviously, in order to resist the attack of the battering ram, it has drawn most of its energy to the shield system. Boom. Just when this medium-sized Botha battleship was ready, the dark blue plasma hit it directly, sputtering. A large amount of high-temperature plasma splashed around at that moment. A brilliant huge flower constructed by high-temperature plasma bloomed in the dark universe. These high-temperature plasmas slowly outlined the shape of the Botha battleship's shield, an ellipsoid similar to the shape of an egg. The plasma column continued to bombard the composite shield continuously, increasing the load of the shield system. Finally, accompanied by a dazzling flash of strong light, a scene similar to the bursting of soap bubbles appeared in front of everyone. The first layer of the composite shield, the magnetic field shield, was completely overloaded at this moment, but the attack of the battering ram has not yet ended. The nearly 1,000 kilometer long dark blue plasma column has become the most dazzling existence in this universe. Without the assistance of the magnetic field shield, the gravitational shield was naturally helpless and slowly dissipated. After struggling for a few seconds, the next moment, the dark blue plasma column drove straight in and hit the outer armor of the Botha battleship directly. The three surrounding Golden Crow battleships would naturally not give up such a good opportunity. With the orders of the three captains, endless artillery fire instantly submerged the Botha medium battleship. The plasma column slowly dissipated. The surface of battery ram was dark red, and some key parts were billowing with thick smoke. For this attack, it consumed all the plasma in stock and even sacrificed its life. It was scrapped. Bang. The flames of the explosion lit up from a distance, reflecting its broken body. That was the flames of the explosion of the Botha medium battleship. Without the protection of the outer armor, under the auxiliary control of Zero, a high energy laser accurately penetrated its antimatter engine. The antimatter leaked out and blew it into pieces. This was also the first core force of the Botha fleet destroyed in this war. Bang, bang, bang. The explosion seemed to have flipped a switch. As the blue plasma column slowly dissipated, the explosions flickered on the battlefield. Some of these explosions came from the Botha fleet, and some came from the Golden Crow warship. The balance of victory once again slowly tilted towards the human fleet. The good times did not last too long. Although the Botha fleet lost a lot of core forces in the previous attack. But correspondingly, the battery ram of the human fleet also suffered a lot of losses in a short period of time point. Although the factory near the Dawn Star is producing at full capacity, the manufacturing difficulty of these battery rams is not low, not to mention that each attack requires a lot of energy and high energy plasma point. Therefore, under the attack of the battering ram, the advance of the Botha fleet was temporarily curbed. But not long after, as the number of battering ram decreased, the Botha fleet quickly launched a counter-attack point. Faced with the increasingly fierce offensive of the Botha fleet, the human fleet could only retreat continuously. Earth looking at the expanding red area in the star map, the faces of everyone present did not look very good. 0. Whereas the antimatter transport ship, as the Botha fleet approaches step by step, the third defense area is about to fall, and LV Yongchang can only pin his hopes on the most powerful war fortress of human civilization point. But at present, this most powerful war fortress is stuck in the quagmire of insufficient energy. Professor, the antimatter transport ship has arrived at the fourth planet of Gliese. Several bright spots of light appeared in the holographic star map in front of him. Zaoziji pursed his lips, his eyes flashing with a little anxiety. The fourth planet is almost there, but the opponent is about to break through the third defense zone. We must hold it, LV Yongchang said in a deep voice. At least, before the Guanghui planet fortress replenishes antimatter, the third defense zone cannot be lost. Zhao Ziji was silent for a while, and nodded very solemnly. Okay, attention, all units, at all costs, hold the third defense line, 30 minutes. He was silent for a moment, and then added again, hold it for 30 minutes, wait until the Guanghui planet fortress replenishes antimatter, and then retreat. While speaking, Zhao Ziji felt that a huge hole was cut in his heart. As the military commander of the human fleet, he naturally knew what consequences his order would cause: a large number of sacrifices. Professor, dimensional strike ship. Zhao Ziji hesitated for a moment, but still chose to ask. Hearing Zhao Ziji's question, LV Yongchang fell silent. After a moment, he sighed hard and shook his head with difficulty. It's not time yet. We don't have many two-dimensional fragments left. We must use them sparingly. In addition to the Botha fleet, human civilization may face more dangers in the future. Two-dimensional fragments, it's better not to use them if you can. Zhao Ziji naturally understood this truth. He swallowed his saliva and cast his anxious eyes on the slowly moving light spots in the star map. How much energy does the antimatter inner Golden Crow battleship have? I think the Botha fleet will know soon. Chapter 561 Self-Destruction. Botha flagship. Looking at the screen on the monitor, Commander Boss's small eyes revealed some doubts. Commander, the enemy has stopped retreating. A sharp report came from behind. Commander Boss snorted coldly, and while his mouthparts moved quickly, he raised his two pairs of forelimbs and gestured. I have seen it. It's nothing more than wanting to keep this last defensive area. A stupid move. As a fourth level civilization, it actually limits its vision to a small planet, which is extremely stupid. Continue to attack. Break through their defense line for me. Not long after the voice fell, an extremely sharp and piercing alarm sounded in the command room. Then, an extremely gorgeous explosion flashed outside the porthole. This fire illuminated the entire dim starry sky, reflecting all the details. At the same time, a line of text appeared in front of Commander Bossa. The sub-flagship has lost its signal. Crazy. They are crazy, Lord. This is crazy. No, no, no. How dare they do this? The fragmented voice was filled with fear. What's going on? Commander Bossa quickly stabilized his emotions and increased the volume of his voice, trying to drown out the discussions of the crew members. Commander, a crew member stammered. The sub-flagship was destroyed. Of course I know. Commander Bossa suppressed his inner anger and asked loudly, I mean, how was it destroyed? The power of that plasma weapon can't break the composite shield of self-explosion. The crew swallowed hard and said with two pairs of forelimbs trembling slightly. 5 warships self-exploded at the same time. They detonated all the antimatter in the warships. The Command room suddenly fell into a dead silence. Commander Bosa turned his head with difficulty to look at the fireball outside the window that had not yet completely extinguished and muttered to himself in disbelief, "Self-destruction. Crazy. They must be crazy." Before the voice fell, several Golden Crow battleships were surrounded by shipborne drones and rushed straight towards the Bosa flagship. "Retreat. Retreat. Immediately." Commander Bosa gave the order without any hesitation, with a look of horror on his face. "Damn it, how could there be such a crazy race? This is their main battleship. Do all their battleships grow out of the ground? Self-destruction of a battleship, how much loss will it cause? Do they know? Does their commander know whether he can fight?" Commander Bosa cursed loudly in exasperation. The Bosa fleet began to retreat slowly, and while retreating, it also randomly fired weapons to intercept the pursuing Golden Crow battleships. No one wanted to try the power of Golden Crow self-destruction. After all, the example of the class secondary flagship was right in front of them. Commander, the detector detected an abnormality as the fleet retreated. A crew member's voice came from the side. "We found the antimatter supply ship of human civilization." The moment the voice fell, the image sent back by the detector appeared in front of the large stick insects looking at the huge starship in the picture. Commander Boss's eyes flashed with a gleam. The picture sent back by the detector continued to switch. Finally, it stopped on a terrifying picture. A planet with turrets and weapons on its surface. The next second, the detector signal disappeared. "Okay, planet fortress." Commander Bossa let out a soul-piercing scream. Its body trembled violently, and infinite fear rose in its eyes. This is a planet fortress. It completely understood why is human civilization, as a 4th level civilization, so obsessed with an ordinary planet. That's a planet fortress, one of the most powerful weapons in the interstellar battlefield. The sweeper civilization has a planet fortress. Almost all subordinate civilizations knew about this, and they were also aware of the power of the planetary fortress. Therefore, the moment they saw the light moon, the fear from the depths of their souls instantly broke out in the hearts of all the Bothans. "No, it's impossible. A mere level 4 civilization can never have a real planetary fortress." Commander Botha struggled to control his trembling body and comforted himself repeatedly. After a brief panic, Commander Botha gradually regained his composure. He realized the problem at the first time. The target of these antimatter supply ships is probably that huge pseudo-planetary fortress. Thinking of the power that a planetary fortress can exert in a defensive battle, Commander Botha's eyes rose with fear. "Immediately destroy those antimatter supply ships." It gave the order directly without any hesitation. "Send 2 secondary flagships. They must be destroyed." "Professor, the drone group has successfully found the enemy ship's antimatter storage unit." The electronic synthesized voice sounded in the command center. "Currently, the disassembly and transportation tasks are being carried out." The rare good news diluted the sadness brought by the self-explosion of Golden Crow. In the command center, LV Yongchang's spirit was slightly lifted. "Speed up the recovery speed." Before he finished speaking, an alarm sounded from Zhao Ziji's seat. "Beep, beep, beep." Zhao Ziji checked the holographic image in front of him and frowned. 2 secondary flagships have left the fleet. What do they want to do? He muttered to himself while subconsciously importing various data into Zero's computing module. The moment he saw the route, Zhao Ziji's breath suddenly choked. Without any hesitation, he directly pressed the communication button. At the same time, he quickly glanced at the battlefield star map. 3rd Fleet, 1st and 2nd teams, withdraw from the battlefield immediately and keep up with the opponent's secondary flagship. They found the antimatter transport ship. Stop them. The antimatter transport ship must not be in trouble. Chapter 562. Team 2. Continue the mission. 3rd Fleet, 2nd Squadron. Andrew looked at the order presented in the holographic projection in front of him, and his expression suddenly changed. Without any hesitation, he directly gave the order to the crew to leave the battlefield. The huge Golden Crow battleship showed extremely powerful flexibility at this moment. Driven by the 94% light speed mesons ejected by the antimatter engine. Golden Crow quickly turned an angle, and then flew straight towards the fifth planet of the Gliese 555 star system. On the side, the two Golden Crow battleships belonging to the second squadron of the third fleet also hurriedly followed their footsteps and pursued the secondary flagship of the both a civilization together according to Zero's calculation results. They will converge in the orbit of Gliese's fifth planet point at the same time, under the escort of two teams. These transport ships loaded with antimatter will sail to the vicinity of the Dawn Star to replenish the necessary antimatter energy for the Phenomenon Planet Fortress. In the command room, Point Andrew, who was submerged in the deep sea cabin, frowned and stared at the holographic star map in front of him. Point in the distance of the star map, there are several slowly moving bright spots shining with white light. They are antimatter transport ships coming all the way from the main star of Gliese 555. Not far from there, Golden Crow battleship. Two bright red spots were moving rapidly towards a white spot in the distance. Point those were the two secondary flagships that broke away from the both a fleet. Fino Andrew glanced at the various data in the holographic projection, and his face looked a little better due to the relative positions of the two sides. The Golden Crow battleship is currently in the lead. Point according to the current situation, both the first and second teams can reach the orbit of the fifth planet first. Point the next moment. Point a slight alarm sounded, and at the same time, the shipboard artificial intelligence automatically unfolded a new holographic projection. Point in the dark and cold universe, the two Bosa sub-flagships slowly distance themselves under the watchful eye of human civilization. Their driving trajectories gradually smoothed out. They no longer performed evasive maneuvers, but allowed those insignificant attacks to fall on their composite shields the next second. The gamma ray intensity at the nozzle of the antimatter engine increased several times. At the same time, a faint white light slowly lit up from its tail. Point as the brightness of the white light gradually increased, the area around the secondary battleship began to gradually become distorted. Point the gravitational lensing effect appears. This scene immediately caused the alarm bells of the Earth Command Center far away on Dawn Star to ring loudly. Warp, sail, Lu. Yongchang suddenly widened his eyes and shouted loudly, "Quick! Interrupt it. We must not let it successfully enter the warp state." No need for Lu Yongchang to remind Zhao Ziji of this once they are allowed to enter the curvature state. The flight speed of these two secondary flagships will instantly achieve a qualitative leap. Even if they can only reach twice the speed of light, they are not worthy of the Golden Crow battleship to catch up. The first squadron of the third fleet attack immediately and destroy their warp state. Zhao Ziji issued an order to the first team that was closer to the secondary flagship. Warp sail. Almost at the same time, the same thought came to Andrew's mind. He subconsciously gave the attack order to the crew. The other two Golden Crow battleships of the second team also made the same choice. Suddenly, the dark universe became lively. But the two Bosa sub-flagships, faced with the overwhelming attack, did not make any evasive response. They just stayed in place quietly, relying on powerful composite shields to resist damage. The curvature engine at the tail point looking at the increasingly bright white light and the increasingly obvious gravitational lens effect in the holographic projection, Andrew felt a chill in his heart. It's over. This was the only thought left in his mind. He could even imagine the scene of these two secondary flagships disappearing into the visible universe. He could also imagine how the antimatter transport ship would explode under their attack. He can even imagine the scene of human civilization dying after defeat. He subconsciously wanted to close his eyes, but a dazzling light and a sharp siren came from the porthole. The explosion's fire lit up the entire starry sky. In the holographic projection, a silent explosion was projected. Andrew's eyes widened slightly. Soon, the light in his eyes dimmed. He took a hard sip of the cold deep sea liquid, trying to cool his scarred heart. Another self-destruction point, in order to break through the composite shields of these secondary flagships, in addition to the fortress of the planet Phosphorus. Perhaps only the power of the battleship's self-destruction can be achieved. I don't know how many brothers who are usually unknown are missing this time. I don't know when it will be his turn to press the evil button that releases all the antimatter in the ship. Along with the flames of the explosion, the originally piercing alarm sound also dissipated. Andrew steeled himself and carefully checked the data returned by the detector. Gravitational Lensing is gradually disappearing. It worked. Both secondary battleships exited warp state. From the images transmitted back by the detector, Andrew could even see bursts of fire coming out of the tail of a secondary flagship. Obviously, the secondary flagship suffered considerable damage in the explosion just now. Under Andrew's gaze, the secondary flagship, which was very close to a sphere, slowly turned and headed towards the Bosa fleet, leaving only one secondary flagship to continue its original mission. One was forced to retreat. Andrew's spirits lifted a little. The third fleet, the first team, was completely wiped out. The second team continued to perform the mission. The cold words made Andrew's heart twitch violently. R. He sighed silently. This time universe. Chapter 563. Andrew, this time, ITN-039, my turn. Outside the porthole, the originally fierce gunfire has become extremely sparse. At the beginning, the secondary flagship of the Botha civilization tried to attack the 3 Golden Crow ships of the second team. Under Zero's auxiliary control, the Golden Crow battleship flexibly avoided each round of attack. Soon, the secondary flagship found the problem. It was basically impossible to hit the 3 cunning Golden Crow battleships with just the attack of a single battleship. Instead of wasting time and ammunition on these insignificant Golden Crow battleships, it would be better to rush to the target area as soon as possible and directly attack the antimatter transport ship. Therefore, it gave up the idea of attacking and began to concentrate on the journey. As for the Golden Crow battleship, it had already stopped attacking. The reason is also very simple. Although the attacks they launched could hit the Botha secondary flagship, these insignificant attacks could not break the shield of the enemy ship at all. So, the warships of both sides just kept their heads down and flew towards the target area as if they had agreed. Of course, all this was based on the premise that the Botha secondary flagship did not start the curvature engine. Once it showed signs of entering curvature navigation, Andrew and others would not hesitate to drive the Golden Crow battleship to launch a suicide attack. The Botha people naturally knew this. After the first secondary flagship was injured, they gave up the idea of curvature navigation. Andrew and others were naturally happy to see this scene. In this way, the warships of both sides briefly formed a strange and fragile balance. Antimatter transport ship signal detected. Please be prepared for reception. A bright white message appeared in the holographic projection in front of Andrew, stirring up his originally somewhat depressed mood. Attention, all units, immediately approach the target starship. Release the shipborne drones and build the first layer of defense barrier. Messages were sent out from the brainwave reader. The hatch on the side of the Golden Crow battleship quickly opened, and the shipborne drones swarmed out like a swarm of bees, rushing straight towards the antimatter transport ship not far away. A sharp alarm sounded at the same time, breaking the not so long tranquility in the Golden Crow ship. The Bosa secondary flagship took the lead in attacking the antimatter transport ship. The flames of war began to burn in this remote corner. Antimatter cannon. This is the main attack method of the Bosa secondary flagship. The Golden Crow battleship can't withstand such an attack, and the antimatter transport ship naturally can't withstand such an attack. But there is a tricky evasion method. Use a large number of shipborne drones to build a thick material barrier to buy a certain amount of evasion time for the starship. This is also the most commonly used defense method in the main battlefield. Accompanied by bursts of explosions and extremely strong gamma ray bursts, the number of shipborne drones decreased rapidly. Against the backdrop of the explosions, the antimatter transport ship and the Golden Crow battleship gradually approached the 6th planet of Gliese, Dawnstar. Looking at the increasingly obvious blue planet outside the porthole, Andrew's eyes became more and more uneasy. Being on the battlefield, he experienced it better than anyone else. As time went on, the frequency and power of the enemy's attacks were rapidly increasing. Obviously, these Botha people were also a little anxious. This is the second team, number 3 Jinwu. All our shipborne drones have been exhausted. Repeat, all shipborne drones have been exhausted. No 2 Jinwu, all shipborne drones have been exhausted. The The flashing words in the holographic projection made Andrew's expression dim again, point like the two friendly ships. The Jinwoo he led also exhausted all the drone stocks. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, flames lit up outside the porthole. Point the originally dense array of shipborne drones gradually became sparse. Support drones will arrive at the battlefield in 5 minutes. Looking at the information from Earth, Andrew took a deep breath of deep sea liquid. Backquote everyone, the support drone is about to arrive. Hold on for the last 5 minutes apostrophe. He sent a message to the two friendly ships as time went on. The shield wall built by the shipborne drones became thinner and thinner. Warning. Antimatter cannon attack detected. Expected impact area. Looking at the data in the holographic projection, Andrew's breathing suddenly became rapid. Point the impact area was near him, just as he was about to order Golden Crow to make an emergency maneuver. He suddenly stopped his action and stared at the holographic image in front of him. Point there are not enough shipborne drones. Although he had not made a perfect calculation, he saw the problem at a glance with his experience. Point the number of shipborne drones in this impact area is not enough to buy enough time for the antimatter transport ship. What to do? What to do? Mobilize more drones from the side. It's too late. Too late. His pupils slightly dilated, his heartbeat was agitated, and a slight smell of blood spread in his dry mouth. Point an order was issued. Point the shipboard artificial intelligence carried out his order with great sincerity. Boom. The antimatter engine began to operate at overload, driven by countless mesons. The Golden Crow battleship rushed forward and filled the gap. Golden Crow number 1, you have entered the attack area. Evade immediately. Golden Crow number 1, evade immediately. Andrew! Exclamation mark. What are you doing? Andrew. In the holographic projection, the information from the friendly ship flashed quickly. Point Andrew took a deep breath, letting the cold deep sea liquid fill his lungs, and then closed his eyes. Backquote everyone, this time, it's my turn. The moment the information was sent, a large amount of plasma gushed out from the side of the Golden Crow battleship. At the same time, all magnetic field generation units began to work overloaded. In a very short time, these high temperature plasmas built an extremely strong plasma shield. Boom. The antimatter cannon arrived as promised. Point the extremely brilliant flames flickered in the dark universe. Point a few seconds later, the ellipsoidal plasma shield exploded, and the antimatter cannon, which had lost its resistance, slammed hard on the Golden Crow. Boom. The flames of the explosion became more and more intense, completely illuminating this dim universe. Earth Command Center. Looking at the picture in the holographic projection, everyone fell into silence. Golden Crow number 1. The signal has been lost, Zao. Zija's slightly trembling voice broke the tranquility of the command center. Bayixan and the other two sitting in the distance had slightly trembling lips, looking at the holographic image in front of them with disbelief. Point Andrew is dead. All the things that happened in the Earth era flashed quickly in his mind. Point unconsciously, hot tears fell on the side of his cheek. Chapter 564 Captain, charge again. The firelight of the explosion dispersed in all directions in the dark universe, and soon illuminated the entire icy starfield. Point the secondary flagship of the Botha civilization stayed in place quietly, letting the various debris brought by the explosion hit the composite shield, splashing bursts of light. Point it made no movement, and seemed to be shocked by Andrew's behavior. The communication channel of the 2nd Squadron of the 3rd Fleet also fell into silence. Point time seemed to have stood still at this moment. Point until the antimatter transport ship gradually moved away. The secondary flagship of the Botha civilization once again completed the charging of the antimatter main gun. The piercing siren sounded among the only two remaining Golden Crow battleships, making the originally silent communication channel active again. Boom. There was another explosion of fire. Point the atmosphere in the Earth Command Center was extremely solemn. Golden Crow number 2, the signal has been lost. Listening to the impersonal electronic synthesized sound, Zao Ziji bit his back teeth hard, raised his right hand and slapped it hard on the console in front of him. Damn it, he looked at the holographic projection in front of him bitterly. How long will it take to support the drone? A row of bright red countdowns appeared. Point the last 30 seconds. Mengshan, captain of the 2nd team of the 3rd Fleet, number 3 Golden Crow. Point in the deep sea cabin, He looked at the holographic projection in front of him, expressionlessly. Point in the projection. The fire of the explosion is gradually dimming. Point. He turned his head and looked through the glass of the deep sea cabin to the porthole in the distance. Point. Outside the porthole window, there is an endless dark starry sky. Point. Suddenly, a dim light lit up in the dark starry sky. Point. As time goes by, this dim light gradually becomes brighter, and the number gradually increases. This familiar scene made Meng Shan's originally dead eyes instantly become more lively. That's a support drone from Dawnstar. After persisting for so long, he finally saw hope. A burst of heat spurted out from around the eye sockets, blending into the surrounding deep sea fluid. Drop. Dip. Dip. The piercing alarm sounded in the command room, reaching his ears through the pale yellow deep sea liquid. Point. Looking at the red alert in the holographic projection, Meng Shan's expression suddenly changed. Point. How so? Didn't the last shelling just end? According to the calculation results, the next round of bombardment will take at least several minutes to recharge. But now, as the detectors returned images of enemy ships, the look of astonishment in Meng Shan's eyes gradually turned into a bitter smile. Point. In the picture, the surface of the main gun of the Bosa civilization's secondary flagship was flashing with abnormal fire and electric light. Point. Obviously, it has also discovered the approaching support drone fleet and is preparing to forcefully activate the antimatter main gun. To gain the last glimmer of hope, Meng Shan forcefully exhaled a mouthful of deep sea liquid warmed by his lungs. The bitter smile in his eyes slowly dissipated, replaced by an incomparable determination. Everyone, this time, it's our turn. Through the brainwave reading device, he sent a message to the crew. I'm sorry, I'm afraid, I can't take you home. Captain, what are you talking about? Just do it and that's it. Captain, fight with these stupid stick insects. Labor and management don't want to go back alive. Captain, charge again. There was almost no waiting time as messages from the crew members flashed across the screen in front of Meng Shan's eyes. Meng Shan's breathing was rapid, his eyes were red, and he nodded with difficulty. Well. Charge again. Human civilization will only fall on the road of charge. Golden Crow, advance 4. As an order was issued, a blood-red message jumped out in front of him. Collision warning. A large object has been detected in the route area. Please confirm the acceleration command. Meng Shan nodded directly and confirmed the order without any hesitation. The next moment, accompanied by the bright red words forward 4, the antimatter engine began to operate at full power and sprayed a stream of high-energy mesons towards the rear of the battleship. A strong recoil was transmitted to him along the deep sea liquid. Meng Shan's thoughts moved slightly, and an increasingly dazzling alarm appeared. Warn. You are disabling the antimatter storage fuse, which will have irreversible consequences. Do you confirm? Confirm. Warn. Exclamation mark. You are turning off the antimatter confinement magnetic field, which will have irreversible consequences. Do you confirm? Confirm. Warn. Antimatter is about to escape. Exclamation mark. The self-destruction process is about to start. Do you confirm? Confirm. Meng Shan's eyes were red, and he gave the last confirmation order with a ferocious expression. Golden Crow, the engine nozzle at the rear of the battleship began to emit some unusual flames. This is a manifestation of excess antimatter in the annihilation chamber driven by the high energy meson flow. This Golden Crow battleship burst out with unprecedented acceleration. In the distance, the antimatter main gun of Boss's secondary flagship also completed its energy storage work at overload. A dense torrent of antimatter gushes out from the muzzle. Golden Crow, there is a blue plasma shield flashing around the battleship, and it goes upstream against the torrent of antimatter. When the two come into contact with each other, an annihilation reaction occurs farther away. The overwhelming support drones were accelerating at overload, rushing towards the antimatter transport ship. The dazzling flames burst out in the universe, forming a beautiful picture. Boom. When the support drone group arrived around the antimatter transport ship, a silent explosion occurred. At the last moment, the Golden Crow battleship released all the antimatter and successfully self-destructed. Bosa civilization's secondary flagship. The violent tremor caused by the explosion slowly dissipated. The lights in the command room flickered, and the sharp alarm sounded continuously. Countless warning signs flashed on the screen. Fire, keep firing, Extremely sharp roar was mixed in between the alarms. Shoot out all the antimatter for me. They have no defense power anymore. Destroy their antimatter transport ship for me, Captain. Bosa shouted hoarsely. Sir, the main gun is 75% damaged and can no longer be used. A Bosa crew member quickly checked and reported loudly with an ugly face. Also, the shield generation system is completely down. Damn it. Captain Bosa cursed in a low voice. The main gun can't be used. Then use the secondary gun. Sir, the enemy's support force has arrived. In the command room, there was a dead silence, with only sharp alarms. Chapter 565. Guangwei Planetary Fortress. Activated. The light of the monitor and the flickering lights reflected the gloomy face of Captain Bossa Point just when all the crew members of Bossa were terrified. It suddenly let out a sigh of relief. Return home, Captain. Boss's mouth moved slightly, and he waved his two pairs of forelimbs weakly. After making a standard circle, he whispered, Lord, we may lose this war, Captain, sir. A large stick insect said cautiously, it's just that we didn't destroy their antimatter transport ship, so we haven't failed yet. You don't understand. Captain Bossa put down his forelimbs and looked weakly at the antimatter transport ship that was gradually moving away and under the heavy protection of the drone fleet. We can't win this war. Why? Another large stick insect asked unconvincedly. They are just a small 4th level civilization. The main fleet will break through the defense line soon. Why can't they stop us? Why? Captain Bossa suddenly let out an extremely piercing laugh. Just because of that planetary fortress. Just because of their attitude towards war. I ask you, after so many wars, have you ever seen such a crazy race? Captain Bossa grabbed the crew beside him with a distorted look and asked loudly. Point yes. Crazy point in its view. The attitude of human civilization towards war can only be described by the word crazy. Point faced with the officer's question. The crew members hesitated for a long time and slowly shook their heads. I have never seen such a race. Captain Bossa's eyes flashed with fear, and he whispered, everyone will choose to self-destruct the warship without hesitation, and perish together with the enemy. This is simply impossible. I can't imagine such a civilization. Such a race grew up in what kind of environment? Bossa. Civilization can never beat such a crazy civilization. Even if we are a level 5 civilization, even if our technology is more advanced than the opponent, we. Captain Bossa sighed again, and his originally excited expression suddenly became grey. Forget it. Let's return. We have lost our basic combat effectiveness. It's time to go back. The crew looked at each other, silently controlling the dilapidated secondary flagship, and embarked on the road to return. The antimatter of the Guangwei Planetary Fortress has been replenished. A line of text appeared in the holographic projection, which brought some peace of mind to everyone. Zhao Ziju turned his head and looked at Lu Yongchang and nodded solemnly. Attention, all fleets. The planetary fortress has been replenished with energy. The fleet will retreat immediately. Repeat, the fleet will retreat and give up the third defense area, as the order was issued. The Golden Crow fleet, which had been charging forward fearlessly, finally slowed down its pace. Under Zero's auxiliary control, the surviving warships actually retreated in an orderly manner and gradually evacuated the third defense area. The warships of the Botha civilization took this opportunity to gather their formation and slowly sailed towards the Dawnstar area again. The target has entered the range. In the holographic projection, a line of highlighted text flashed. Everyone, next is the moment of our decisive battle with the Botha civilization. LV. Yongchang took a deep breath, and the expression on his face suddenly became serious. He gave the order in an extremely solemn voice. Start the Guangwei 1 planetary fortress. The voice fell. Several huge antimatter engines installed inside the crust of Guangwei began to work, and endless energy was quickly transmitted to the weapons and equipment set up on the surface of Guangwei through thick wires. Planet-level electromagnetic cannons, planet-level plasma cannons, various behemoths started to work at the same time at this moment. Of course, the most eye-catching one is the giant antimatter cannon transformed from the ring satellite particle accelerator. It occupies the entire equatorial area of Guangli. After it is turned on, it will consume 40% of the energy generated by the antimatter engine of Guangli. The huge energy consumption also brings huge benefits, unlike the antimatter cannon formed by the battering ram. This giant antimatter cannon can be said to be the pinnacle of human civilizations. Attack point: not only can it fire continuously, but its attack power is close to the antimatter torrent created by hundreds of battering rams. Under the gaze of everyone, a thick gun barrel was slowly lifted up, looking up at the far-reaching Botha fleet. If you stand on the ground of the Sun Moon at this time, relying on the thin atmosphere around the ground and the sound transmission effect of the solid ground, you can hear a high-frequency humming sound coming from the pipe in the equatorial area. A large amount of antimatter is input into this solid pipe, and then it begins to accelerate under the action of the high intensity magnetic field ! 50% of the speed of light! 80% of the speed of light! 95% of the speed of light! 99.93% of the speed of light. When the speed of the antimatter particles reaches a predetermined value, they are guided by the magnetic field and rush into the thick barrel. The barrel has a magnetic field that is not weaker than that of the particle accelerator. Under the action of these magnetic fields, the antimatter torrent that reaches 99.93% of the speed of light is like a sharp arrow shooting straight into the sky from the surface of the Sun Moon. Because the atmosphere of the first moon is only maintained in the area of several meters near the surface, the antimatter torrent fired by the antimatter cannon will not be disturbed by the atmosphere point accompanied by the continuous flashing of high-intensity gamma rays. This antimatter torrent flew straight towards the target warship. Chapter 566: Planetary Fortress and Pseudo-Planetary Fortress. Botha flagship point. Sharp alarms filled the command room, and a large stick insect issued orders nervously. Commander, our secondary flagship has been locked by the enemy planetary fortress. Attack has been launched. Preliminary judgment is antimatter cannon. Contact countdown 60 seconds. Commander. Botha's eyes flashed with complex expressions, with worry, panic, and even a little doubt. Planetary fortresses are a symbol of strength in interstellar civilizations. No matter what level of civilization it is built, it is the most powerful weapon in the same level of civilization. The reason is also very simple. To transform a huge planet or satellite into a giant weapon with real combat capabilities, it requires a lot of resources. There is no doubt that this is a symbol of civilization strength. Botha civilization, with the support of the Lord, has a lot of advanced technology, but until now, it has not had its own planetary fortress. Not only Botha civilization, it can be said that almost all affiliated civilizations do not have their own planetary fortresses. The power of the planetary fortress can be seen from this unless the planetary fortress in front of him is a mere decoration. The kind that looks good, but is not useful. Such things are not uncommon in the universe. Among the subordinate civilizations that Commander Botha knows, many civilizations are trying to create such decorations, and several subordinate civilizations have already built such pseudo-planetary fortresses. Although the input and output are not proportional, and it is even a loss-making business, it can scare people. In the interstellar war, pulling out a planetary fortress with a diameter of thousands of kilometers is a silent deterrent to any hostile civilization. Under normal circumstances, no civilization would be so blind as to use its own warships to test the power of the planetary fortress. It is precisely because of this that Commander Botha's eyes are mixed with a little doubt. What kind of planetary fortress is this in front of him? Is it a real thing with real combat capabilities? Or a mere decoration that looks good, but is not useful? Even if the planetary fortress of human civilization launched an antimatter cannon attack, the doubt in Commander Botha's eyes did not subside at all. It's normal. In order to scare people, this kind of pseudo-planetary fortress is generally equipped with the most powerful weapons in civilization. But it's hard to say whether this weapon is mature. Basically, it's the same as the pseudo-planetary fortress, which is a flowery shelf that looks good, but is useless. But what should they do now? What should they do in the face of this antimatter cannon whose power is still unknown? At the critical moment, this question flashed through Commander Bosa's mind. Hide? No, in just 60 seconds. How can the Bosa fleet hide, even with antimatter engines? It takes a lot of time for large warships. To change course 60 seconds is definitely not enough. Resist. You can only resist full power operation of the composite shield. After thinking through the key point, Commander Bosa gritted his teeth and said viciously, turn on all the antimatter cannons and shoot at their planetary fortresses. As soon as the words came out, it hesitated for a moment and added again, let the surrounding large warships also run the composite shield at full power and block this antimatter cannon for me. In the Botha fleet. As Commander Botha issued the order, the light of the antimatter engine dimmed slightly, but the intensity of the gamma rays released from it increased a lot. This shows that the energy generated by the antimatter engine has been transferred to other places from the increasingly obvious gravitational lens effect around the warship. It is easy to see where this energy goes. The composite shield generation device. The countdown is reset. The antimatter torrent from the Guanhui planetary fortress hit the front of a secondary flagship directly. The dazzling light bloomed from the composite shield of the secondary flagship. In just a few seconds, countless alarms sounded in the command room of this secondary flagship. As warning lights came on one after another, the composite shield production device fell into overload and shut down. Boo, like a huge soap bubble bursting. The composite shield flashing with crystal light disappeared into the universe. Boom. The antimatter torrent, with slightly weakened momentum, hit the outer armor of the secondary flagship. The flames of the explosion followed. Perhaps because there was more antimatter stored inside, the momentum of its explosion far exceeded that of the Golden Crow battleship. It even directly illuminated the area around the Dawn Star. The antimatter torrent slowly dissipated. Destroying with great force the planetary fortress. Made great achievements in its first full-scale attack. One shelling directly eliminated a secondary flagship. This feat greatly encouraged the human fleet that withdrew to the vicinity of the Dawn Star. There was a dead silence in the Botha flagship. Commander Botha's two pairs of forelimbs trembled slightly. At this moment, the doubts in its eyes had already dissipated. Go to the fake planetary fortress. What fake planetary fortress can blow up their secondary flagship with one shell? Commander, the antimatter cannon has been successfully launched. A large stick insect reported the information to it in a weak voice. Commander Bosa did not speak, but looked at the screen in front of him with a slight tremor. It hoped that these antimatter cannons could cause some damage to the huge planetary fortress. A few seconds later, the tiny hope in its eyes slowly dissipated. The antimatter cannons they fired were blocked by the drone group. Commander, the enemy planetary fortress fired antimatter cannons. Again, looking at the explosions and flames in the dark universe, Commander Botha's eyes gradually became enlightened. He suddenly understood what he should do. Human civilization has only one planetary fortress and only one antimatter cannon. For the Lord's command in the Lord's plan. Now it's the turn of their Botha civilization. It slowly raised its two pairs of forelimbs, made a very standard circle in front of it, and then chanted in an obscure tone, Lord Botha civilization will show you its loyalty. As the voice fell, its eyes flashed with sharp eyes, and its mouth pits and breathing holes moved rapidly. Botha fleet. 4. The glory of the Lord. All members charge. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 567 Fanaticism and Betrayal. Commander Botha's words instantly aroused the enthusiasm in the hearts of all the Bothans. It only took a few seconds for the original decline and the fleet to be wiped out. Most of the battleships obeyed Commander Botha's orders, raised the power of their antimatter engines to the highest level, and rushed straight towards the Pharos planetary fortress. Some fanatics even directly turned off the composite shield generation device and poured the excess energy into the propulsion system and shipboard weapon system, just to cause some negligible damage to the fortress of the planet Phosphorus, as soon as possible. Of course, these are not representative of all Bothans among the fleet that accelerated forward. Several unexpected warships appeared. These battleships large or small, stayed at the end of the fleet, looking unwilling to obey the command. Commander Botha naturally discovered this weird scene. While most of the Botha fleet was rushing forward, these warships actually slowed down their progress. A trace of anger suddenly rose in its eyes in its view. This is disrespectful to the Lord. They rebelled against the Lord. Damn it. Look at the human civilization on the other side. It snapped. They can sacrifice their lives for their civilization without hesitation. And what about you? The decisive battle is coming, and you actually want to retreat. An obscure and sharp scream soon came from the fleet communication device. The content of the words was difficult to hear, but the meaning was simple. It's nothing more than unwillingness to sacrifice one's life for that illusory lord. Before the other party could finish speaking, Commander Botha angrily cut off the communication. Besides being angry, it was also a little helpless. During the war, the style of human civilization was deeply ingrained in its mind. As the captain of Botha's sub-flagship said, it can't imagine what kind of environment could give birth to such a civilization. Commander, do you need to remotely control their warships? A question came from the side. Commander Botha pondered for a moment and nodded slowly. After a few seconds, the Botha battleship, which was lagging behind, once again caught up with the team. But in the communication channel, there were waves of yelling and cursing. Earth. The sight of the Pharos planetary fortress with all its firepower deeply shocked all the commanders present. Professor, the power of Guanhui is too great. Zhao Ziji's eyes flashed with excitement. With it here, maybe we can really stop using the dimensional strike ship. Yongchang pondered for a moment and slowly shook his head. No, get the dimension strike ship ready for launch. Light good. One can't last much longer. Yongchang's words were like a basin of cold water poured on Zhao Ziji's head. What? He was shocked and said, Professor, why do you say that? I see that Guanhui is in normal condition at the moment, and there is no problem at all. Yongchang stared at the fluctuating data in front of him and said softly, do you know why only Lightsun 1 has antimatter cannons? Logically speaking, this powerful weapon should be installed on every golden crow. Zhao Ziji looked suffocated and shook his head without replying. He is just a military commander and naturally has no understanding of this kind of thing. The problem of material strength. Yongchang said softly, our material technology is still a little behind the Botha civilization. Antimatter cannons have very high requirements on materials and can currently only be installed on the moon, using a huge size to increase the strength of the barrel and body. But even so, its lifespan is far inferior to the antimatter cannon of the Botha civilization. In order to extend its life, I weakened the power of this antimatter cannon as much as possible, but at the moment, it doesn't seem like it can last much longer. Yeah, it's pretty good. Zhao Ziji scratched his head and comforted softly. Without it, we wouldn't be able to defeat those tortoise shell-like secondary flagships. Pity. Yongchang did not respond to Zhao Ziji's words. He just shook his head and stared directly at the explosions and flames on the screen. Photon is not a true planetary fortress after all. If it had a longer range or could move like a battleship, how come human civilization has sacrificed so many soldiers? Yongchang's words caused everyone to fall into silence. Professor, Captain Zhao, the strength of the antimatter main gun of Sunshine is rapidly declining, and it will take time to repair and adjust it. A crew members shout interrupted Yongchang's thoughts. Zhao Ziji looked stern. Sure enough, as Yongchang said, the antimatter main cannon of the Pharos planetary fortress cannot last long. Looking at the Botha fleet, which had been reduced in number by half, Zhao Ziji's eyes flashed. Golden Crow fleet set off by enough time for the phosphorus antimatter main cannon. Time passes minute by minute. The Golden Crow fleet and the Pharos planetary fortress took turns dispatching, killing 90% of the Botha fleet, but with a complete misfire of the antimatter main gun of phosphorus, the Botha fleet also successfully broke through the last line of defense and arrived near the Dawn Star. The decisive battle finally comes. The few remaining Botha fleets, surrounded by the bright and beautiful Botha flagship in the middle, quietly stopped in front of the Golden Crow. fleet. As if giving humans an ultimatum. Yes, from common sense, the human fleet at this time has already entered a situation of defeat. The secondary flagships alone are not something that the human fleet can defeat. Not to mention the almost spherical Botha flagship in the middle, according to various data collected on the battlefield. Even if dozens of Golden Crows self-destruct at the same time, it is estimated that they cannot break its shield. Prepare to use the dimensional strike ship. Yongchang sighed slightly and gave the order softly. There was no grand ceremony or any omen. As Yongchang's voice fell, several small dimensional strike ships scattered around the Dawn Star and kept silent quietly opened their guns accompanied by a wave that was imperceptible to human and Botha civilizations. Several small grey pieces of paper crossed the dark universe and slowly flew towards the target starship. Professor, we have received a communication request from the flagship of Botha civilization. The electronic synthesized voice sounded in the command center. Yongchang and Zhao Ziji looked at each other and nodded solemnly. Connect it. In order to ensure the success of the dimensional strike ship's attack, what they have to do now is to stabilize these large stick insects as much as possible. Chapter 568 Scarce Resources in the Universe. Botha flagship. How is the small battleship recovery mission going, Commander? Botha asked softly. Our antimatter reserves are running low. When human civilization is solved, we may need the antimatter in these small battleships to return to the home planet. Upon hearing this, a large stick insect quickly lowered its head and pressed a few buttons on the console in front of it. Recycling robots have been dispatched. According to the time, they should. The moment the picture appeared on the monitor, the wriggling mouthparts of this large stick insect suddenly stopped. How? These words that came to an abrupt end made Commander Botha have a bad thought in his mind. Did something happen to the small battleship? Director, Commander. The large stick insect responsible for recovering the small warship trembled slightly, raised its two pairs of forelimbs, and gently rubbed his eyeballs. The antimatter storage device disappeared. What did you say? Commander Botha looked at the crew members beside him in bewilderment and asked sharply. Disappeared? How could a good antimatter storage device disappear out of thin air? The harsh scolding increased the trembling of the crew's body. Indeed, it has indeed disappeared. War battleship. Several damaged areas were found in the battleship. It seems that someone else has come in. Commander Botha's face changed slightly. He quickly ran to the sailor's side, raised his forelimbs and pushed hard. Get out of my way, it snapped. Underneath the extremely harsh words was a face of extreme panic. Like the crew, Commander Botha's two pairs of forelimbs trembled crazily as he opened the data sent back by the recovery robot. Boom. There was a blank in the back of its mind. After a long time, two syllables popped out of my blank brain. It's over. It murmured to itself. It was preempted by human civilization. I don't understand. Commander Botha looked at the monitor blankly and muttered to himself. When did they do these things? I didn't see any enemy ships approaching these small battleships at all. It doesn't understand. It is obvious that human civilization has always been at a disadvantage in war. Why can they still do these things? Why can they still do these things? Everything must be reasonable. For the first time, Commander Botha felt wronged in the war. This damn human civilization has never played its cards according to normal routines. Damn robbers, thieves, bastards. Commander Botha cursed angrily through gritted teeth. After a few seconds, the swearing died down. Send them a communication request. Commander Botha said with a ferocious face. Let's see if we can persuade you to surrender. If the fight continues, we won't be able to go home even if we win. After a few seconds, the holographic projection screen gradually became clearer, and the images from the Botha civilization once again appeared in front of Yongchang and others. It was different from the first meeting point this time. The large stick insects in Botha's flagship were not as arrogant as before, but seemed a little sluggish. Even Commander Botha, standing in the center of the picture, no longer looks upright with his slender body. It seems that this Commander who has experienced countless wars has difficulty accepting the loss of such a large number of warships, but even so, the moment the communication was successfully connected, it slowly raised its two pairs of forelimbs, made a circle on its chest, and then glanced at the picture on the monitor with contemptuous eyes. Human civilization, you have lost. The planetary fortress cannot continue to be used. You have no chance of winning in this war. Surrender now and give up all resistance. I can preserve the last fire of the race for you. As he said that, a picture appeared in the holographic projection in front of everyone. Point in the picture, there are densely packed, obscure words like tadpoles. Zero quickly performed the translation task. Point looking at the slowly appearing Chinese characters. Yongchang raised his eyebrows sharply. Point the content of the text is very simple. It is about what to do after the surrender of human civilization. Point according to the plan given by the Botha civilization, human civilization will retain a population of 1 million and be imprisoned in a large starship, waiting for the fall of the sweeper civilization. Point as for other human beings, there is no need to say more about their fate. Point looking at the large food recovery and processing device in the plan, the faces of everyone in the command center turned livid. Arsehole, Fang Zhu, who was sitting not far from Yongchang, slammed the table in front of him and shouted, "This is how you treat prisoners. You actually treat the captives as." He said that, Fang Zhu's expression changed quickly, and then he felt nauseated and couldn't help but make a vomiting motion. Point in the holographic projection, all the Bosa people looked at Fang Zhu's actions with puzzled faces. A sound like fingernail scraping came from the speaker, and at the same time, Zero presented the real-time translation in front of everyone. Isn't this normal procedure? Protein and fat are scarce resources in the universe. It would be too wasteful to throw them away directly. After perfect processing, these materials can be put to good use. This method of processing is very common, and many civilizations in the universe do this. Aren't you? The words in the holographic projection tightly gripped Yongchang's heart. Point his face turned slightly pale, and he took a few deep breaths to calm down his bad mood. Point then, Yongchang stared at the holographic projection with extremely disgusted eyes, and squeezed out a sentence from his teeth. Human civilization will never surrender. You are the ones who should surrender. The moment the voice fell, an extremely strong flash of light broke out in the Botha fleet. Through the porthole, Yongchang's peripheral vision swept this instant burst of light. Hit, Zao. Zija's somewhat suppressed exclamation came from the side. Point at the same time, an extremely sharp and piercing sound came from the loudspeaker. The communication has not been interrupted. Point Yongchang subconsciously turned his head to look at the holographic projection. Point the picture in the projection was shaking violently, and the originally indifferent Botha people also fell into chaos. The harsh sounds just now were the screams of fear of these stick insects. Yongchang frowned slightly and sighed softly. Point from the uninterrupted communication screen, it can be seen that this round of two-dimensional fragments did not hit the enemy's flagship. Zero. Which enemy ships did we hit? As soon as the voice fell, the real-time image from the detector appeared next to Yongchang. Point under the illumination of several large flares, a series of two-dimensional paper warships slowly extended in the universe. Chapter 569 Hero 123 Yongchang moved his lips slightly, silently counting the number of two-dimensional battleships. 90. Okay. Yongchang's expression relaxed a little, his eyes were shining brightly, and he shouted loudly, all hits. After all, two-dimensional fragments are high-risk weapons. Without the protection of the stabilizing device, it is an extremely dangerous time bomb. Who knows where it will float to under the action of inertia, and then suddenly explode. After experiencing the Proxima Centauri incident, Yongchang had some shadows about similar things, fearing that he would accidentally cause the same own incident again. Professor, the comparison process has been completed. In this attack, a total of 6 enemy secondary flagships were hit and destroyed, with 0 remaining. A total of 4 large enemy warships were hit and destroyed, leaving 10 ships. Electronic synthesized sounds came from the side. Point Yongchang nodded with satisfaction. Point, although the flagship of the Botha civilization was not eliminated, such a result was enough. The remaining large battleships can be slowly worn out by just relying on the Golden Crow fleet. As for the flagship, a flash of light flashed in Yongchang's eyes. You also need to launch a two-dimensional fragment, however. After being prepared, these two-dimensional fragments are not easy to hit enemy ships. Just as Yongchang was thinking about countermeasures, a high-pitched and harsh sound came from the speaker, which made Yongchang tremble slightly. He raised his head and looked at the translated text in the holographic projection. Dimensional attack. Lord, that's a dimensional attack. The calmness on Commander Botha's face has completely dissipated. It shouted towards the camera with a horrified look on its face. Damn it, you are not a level 4 civilization, you. The panic in Commander Botha's eyes almost overflowed. You are the pastoralists. Yongchang's eyes moved slightly. Do you also know about the pastoral school, Commander? Botha ignored Yongchang's inquiry and just kept making circular motions on his chest with his two pairs of forelimbs. Lord, your Lord doesn't seem to care about your lives. Yongchang stared at the holographic projection and said in a deep voice, they didn't even tell you the truth. Even so, you still have to be civilized for the sweepers. Shut up. An increasingly shrill roar came from the speaker in the picture. Commander Botha swings his slender body greatly while raising the two pairs of forelimbs on his chest, seemingly making some threatening movements. The Lord must have had his intention in doing this. As faithful slaves of the Lord, it is our honor to lay down our lives for the Lord. Yongchang frowned and shook his head speechlessly. This Botha civilization is completely ruined. He gave his assessment 0. Prepare to cut off communications. The sharp roar continued. After discovering that human civilization had launched a dimensional attack, these large stick insects seemed to have fallen into some kind of strange state of madness. They jumped around in front of the camera with great enthusiasm, and at the same time, chanted loudly in a strange accent, the Lord will have all the information. The Lord's loyal servants will track the dimensional fluctuations. Human civilization, you can't escape. Cut off communications. Yongchang gave the order with a gloomy face. The holographic communication interface disappeared instantly. But in Yongchang's mind, the crazy behavior of those large stick insects still appeared. Professor, I apply to launch another dimensional strike against enemy ships. Zhao Ziji's voice came from the side. We need to resolve the battle as soon as possible. Yongchang had a gloomy face, tried his best to suppress the bad thoughts in his heart, and said in a deep voice, just do as you say. It's just that, after experiencing such a round of attacks just now, the enemy may be on guard against two-dimensional fragments. The second round of attacks is not easy to hit. Do you have any ideas? Use Golden Crow. Zhao Ziji was silent for a moment and then suddenly spoke. What? Yongchang didn't understand the meaning of Zhao Ziji's words for a while. Place the dimensional strike ship in the cabin of the Golden Crow. Get close to it and then attack. Zhao Ziji pressed his somewhat white lips vigorously and explained softly. Yongchang's expression suddenly changed. This once the two-dimensional fragments erupt, Golden Crow will definitely not be able to escape. Professor, in order to win the war, these sacrifices are indispensable. Zhao Ziji's eyes flashed with a strange look. The order has been issued. They've already set off. Silence. There was a long silence. Call. Yongchang took a long breath and then said in a hoarse voice, they are heroes. All soldiers who died in this war are heroes. After the war, build a monument to the pioneers of human civilization. Human civilization must never forget them. Zhao Ziji's eyes were slightly red, and he nodded with an extremely solemn expression. The war has reached its final stage. Under the siege of countless Golden Crow battleships, bursts of explosions flashed in the Botha fleet. Of course, under the attack of the enemy flagship, the Golden Crow battleship also suffered great losses under the gaze of the crowd. A Golden Crow battleship quietly broke away from the formation, and under the cover of the other Golden Crows, it approached the enemy flagship step by step. Perhaps because they were so eager to kill, these stick insects did not notice the strange behavior of this Golden Crow. When they found it, this Golden Crow had already arrived at the warning area, accompanied by a strong gamma ray burst. The antimatter engine burst out a huge ball of fire pushing the Golden Crow straight into the Bosa flagship. The Bosa flagship had no time to dodge and could only aim the hastily charged antimatter main gun at the Golden Crow. Boom. Under the impact of the antimatter torrent, a violent explosion began to appear from the head of the Golden Crow. It happened in a flashpoint in the endless explosion and fire. An unprecedented flash of light burst out. This flash of light illuminated the entire battlefield in an instant and pressed the energy of positive and antimatter annihilation under it. The light slowly dissipated. A piece of paper without thickness slowly floated in the starry sky. Looking at the annihilation reaction still going on in the paper, Yongchang slowly raised his right hand and saluted the starry sky in a unique salute for the human fleet. Chapter 570. The man is innocent, but guilty of possessing a treasure. The war is over when the fire of the explosion gradually dissipated. The young star system once again returned to its original tranquility. The wreckage of countless dilapidated battleships flowed slowly in the star system, seeming to tell the story of the bloody and tearful process of this war. The Botha fleet was wiped out. But apart from a large amount of antimatter and battleship wreckage, they left nothing to mankind. Warp engines, antimatter cannons. All key areas were equipped with antimatter bombs, leaving almost no residue after the explosion. As for human civilization, although it won this war, it also paid a huge price. Most of the Golden Crow fleet was damaged, and the Light Guardian planetary fortress was almost scrapped, not to mention all kinds of weapons and equipment. Even the Dimension Strike ship only has the last 30 ships left. Why, Earth? In Yongchang's office. Yongchang looked at the data in the holographic projection and sighed softly. I don't know how long it will take to get back to the state it was in before the war. Xiao Ziji sat aside and shook his head with a bitter look on his face. Professor, we have no time to develop. Have you forgotten what the Bothans said? The Sweeper civilization is likely to continue sending affiliated civilizations to the Gliese 555 star system. Yongchang nodded seriously. Of course I know that. I suggest we set off as soon as possible. Xiao Ziji took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, the Gliese 555 star system is too dangerous. We must set off immediately to find the next safe zone. Only by leaving Gliese 555 can we have a chance. Yongchang slowly closed his eyes and sighed again. I'm afraid it's not that simple. According to the Botha civilization, the Sweeper civilization has many subsidiary civilizations. The current human civilization must have become the hunting target of these subsidiary civilizations. The dimensional fluctuations caused by the two-dimensional fragments are the clues for them to find us. Yongchang's face became increasingly ugly. Unless we don't use these two-dimensional fragments in the future, no, it's useless. Every man is not guilty, but he is guilty of carrying a jade. As he spoke, Yongchang thought of the information he learned from Hua, and his face turned livid. Even if we don't use these two-dimensional fragments, they will still attract the attention of the Sweeper civilization. Then, according to what you say, doesn't it mean that human civilization has no way to survive? Xiao Ziji's eyes were filled with confusion, and he murmured to himself, is there no place for human beings in this huge universe? Silence. There was a long silence. No, there is still a way to survive. Yongchang's eyes flashed with confusion. It's just, forget it. Let me think about it again. You go and prepare for the interstellar voyage first. Xiao Ziji's eyes became even more confused, but he still responded, turned around and left Yongchang's office. Click. The sound of the door closing sounded in the quiet office, but Yongchang didn't react at all. He just stared blankly at a small holographic projection in front of him. In the holographic projection, an image material from the Earth era is being played. A gecko, when danger approached, resolutely cut off its tail and successfully escaped. The outer reaches of the Milky Way. The number of star systems is extremely rare, and most of them are thin interstellar matter. Farther away is the open space between river systems. There are no star systems. Here, and even interstellar matter has become extremely rare. Of course, that doesn't mean there's nothing in the area. Dark point, or called dark matter halo point. This is a natural barrier between river systems. The mass and volume of this dark matter far exceed the mass and volume of the river system. Like an unbeaten egg. The Milky Way is the yolk embedded in the egg white, and the dark halo is the surrounding ring of egg white. Due to the extremely stable nature of dark matter, most civilizations can only detect their existence and cannot use them at all. Therefore, for most civilizations in the universe, the vacuum zone between river systems is a natural barrier that they can never cross. However, there are always exceptions to everything. I don't know when a slender belt appeared in this natural barrier, connecting two river systems 2.54 million light years apart. This is a galactic bridge that connects the Milky Way to the Andromeda galaxy. This galaxy bridge, built of neutral hydrogen, is a veritable material-rich area among the vast river systems. Such galaxy bridges are distributed among many river systems, but even so, only a small number of civilizations can rely on this galaxy bridge to travel to other river systems in the area where this galaxy bridge connects with the edge of the Milky Way. Spherical battleships rich in technology are hovering quietly in the empty space, as if waiting for something. Suddenly, a mysterious wave slowly appeared on the galaxy bridge. At the same time, there was some distortion in a certain area on the galaxy bridge. Boom. Without any waiting, almost at the same time, the explosion of fire illuminated the dim starry sky. The surfaces of these spherical warships emitted bursts of faint light, seeming to be actuating some device. Under the action of these devices, all the matter in the starfield, even the dark matter that should have been extremely stable, turned into extremely violent energy at this moment. Not only that, even the three-dimensional space, like snow under the sun, melted rapidly, revealing a series of extremely deep black marks. Around the black marks, there is an extremely strong light. It seems that these black marks are releasing the huge energy contained in them in a strange way. Chapter 571. Cut off the tail. The extremely bright explosion flames gradually dissipated. The deep black marks gradually disappeared. At the edge of the Milky Way, which was already extremely sparse in materials, a real vacuum area appeared directly at this time point. Although the explosion has ended, the spherical battleships that caused the explosion still stay in place, as if facing a powerful enemy. Time passes minute by minute. An infinitely extending thin line slowly emerges from the vacuum area. The moment the thin line appeared, it stretched straight towards one of the spherical battleships with the extremely dazzling light. The shape of the spherical battleship continued to elongate, and its width and height quickly disappeared, until it turned into an infinitely extending silver-white thin line. Under the influence of its own gravity, this extremely long silver-white thread quickly gathered together and became a silver-white thread, quietly suspended in the universe. At the same time, on the side, among the grey shadows, a constantly twisting spherical-like structure slowly emerged. Then, this spherical structure directly hit a spherical battleship. The next moment, several creatures with 6 slender tentacles suddenly appeared outside the spherical battleship. They writhed painfully in the vacuum. Next to them are various parts inside the spherical battleship. As for the spherical battleship that was attacked, it had become an empty shell at this time, floating quietly next to these space junks. The war begins without any communication. The moment the identities of the two sides were determined, the war entered a white-hot stage. This war was strange from the beginning. Whether it was a sudden explosion or various unexpected attack methods, every place was filled with a strong and strange atmosphere. Far away in the Gliese 555 star system on the other side of the Milky Way. Earth. Liu Yongchang sat in his office, silently looking at the universe outside the porthole window. Needless to say, extremely distant stars, even the nearest Gliese 555, cannot illuminate this extremely dark space. He frowned and thought carefully. As time went by, his thinking gradually became clearer. Yongchang, Fang. Zhu's weak voice came from the seat next to him. Liu Yongchang sighed slightly and said softly, whether it is a sweeper civilization or a pastoral civilization, their primary purpose is actually two-dimensional fragments in the hands of human civilization. As for those subsidiary civilizations that have no self-thought, let alone say more, they are nothing more than slaves following the sweeper civilization, thinking of the constant prayer posture of both a civilization, Yongchang sneered disdainfully. Point for an interstellar civilization that has reached this point. It would be better to become extinct. Then, Fang Zhu's face changed slightly, and he lowered his voice. The remaining two-dimensional fragments, Yongchang shook his head, shook those disgusting images out of his mind, and then continued to think. Needless to say, the sweepers are civilized. According to Hua, he has been looking for two-dimensional creatures for a long time. Although the reason is not clear, it must be related to dimensional technology. As a result, human civilization with two-dimensional fragments in its hands has naturally become its primary target. Pastoral civilization, although it is possible that they want to avenge the painting with the sweeper civilization, their primary goal is easy to guess. It is nothing more than getting the two-dimensional fragments before the sweeper civilization, or preventing the sweeper civilization from getting the two-dimensional fragments. From this point of view, the path that human civilization should take is very clear. Throw it away, Yongchang said with a pained face. It is not a good thing for these two-dimensional fragments to be in human hands, but you can't just throw it away, Yongchang looked at the side window in confusion and murmured softly, just throwing it into the universe will definitely not work. First, these two-dimensional pieces had to be used to create a massive scene. The reason naturally attracted the attention of the sweeper civilization and the pastoral civilization. The best solution is to use these two-dimensional fragments to two-dimensionalize a star. In the process of two-dimensionalization of stars, extremely powerful energy fluctuations and dimensional fluctuations are bound to occur. These abnormal phenomena will definitely attract the attention of higher civilizations. Yongchang subconsciously entered a series of data into the holographic projection. The calculation results are out. Not enough. 32-dimensional fragments cannot carry out a two-dimensional attack on the star. A planet. Yongchang tapped his knuckles on the desk and murmured in a low voice. It's not difficult. There are many planets in the Gliese 555 star system. No. Yongchang seemed to have remembered something. His eyes flashed with fear. Not enough. This is not enough. Fang Zhu said nothing, but looked at Yongchang with confusion. Just two-dimensionalizing an ordinary planet will at most distract the attention of the sweeper civilization. There is also pastoral civilization. Don't forget to paint the message before your death. Fang Zhu's expression suddenly changed. Yes, other advanced civilizations may not believe the message sent by painting, but the pastoralists will definitely continue to pay attention to human civilization. Cut off the tail to survive. Yongchang closed his eyes tightly, trembling slightly, and squeezed out 4 syllables through his teeth. Fang Zhu's eyes suddenly widened. He understood the meaning of Yongchang's words. Abandon some of humanity. Let part of human civilization turn into a huge picture. Let those advanced civilizations believe that human civilization has died. Only in this way can the remaining human beings barely have the qualifications to survive, like Yongchang. At that moment, Fang Zhu's body began to tremble. A deep fear emerged from his eyes. Opposition words spewed from his belly, but they stuck in his throat. After a brief silence, he asked hoarsely with trembling teeth, how many people are needed? A lot. The pastoralists are not fools. If you want to deceive them, Yongchang repeated again, you need a lot of people. Where's the candidate? I have no idea. This is a crime. No matter who you choose, this is a crime. Fang Zhu lowered his voice and shouted in a low voice, I know, of course I know this is a crime. Yongchang raised his hands to cover his eyes and said with pain on his face, but this may be the only way to survive. Fang Zhu let out a long breath and slumped down in his seat. Yes, this may be the only way to survive this damn universe, like Yongchang. He also turned to look at the side window. The eyes reflected endless fear. P.S. Thanks to the 10th art boss for the master certification. Chapter 572. Tail cutting plan. Earth calendar year 2505, November 5th. 3 days after the defeat of the Botha civilization. During these 3 days, the Academy of Sciences and the Parliament conducted a lot of discussions, trying to find another way out for human civilization. However, facing the powerful sweeper civilization and pastoral civilization, as well as countless sweeper-affiliated civilizations. The tail-cutting plan proposed by LV Yongchang is still the best solution point in the end. The Academy of Sciences and the Parliament opened a secret ballot for all members. Tail-cutting plan, with a support rate of 71.3%, became the escape plan of human civilization. The moment the plan was determined, every silent, home ship, became lively. Under Zero's control, orange-yellow light lit up in the hibernation cabins that had been silent for hundreds of years. The following content is excerpted from the memoirs of participants in the tail-cutting plan. Beep, beep, beep. At first, the buzzing sound seemed particularly distant, as if it was separated by a thick layer of frosted glass, and the sound was not real. Oh, am I? Perhaps because of the long hibernation, my mind was blank at that time. Xiamingda. A few seconds later, a name slowly emerged in my mind. Where is this? What happened? Almost at the same time, countless questions arose in my mind. The next second, memory fragments flashed rapidly like a revolving lantern from the depths of my brain. Along with the emergence of a large number of memory fragments, I felt an extremely strong sense of nausea rising from my abdomen. At the same time, the beeping sound, that was not very real, also quickly became clear. Almost subconsciously, I took a deep breath. Along with the nausea, there was an extremely strong feeling of choking. These two strong discomforts directly dispersed the memory fragments that had just begun to emerge in my mind. With a blank mind, I chose to follow the instinct of my body, curled up my body, and coughed hard. Cough. Cough cough. A strong echo came. I seemed to be in a not very large space. My body was sticky, as if there was some liquid left. Now that I think about it, it should be deep sea fluid. The bone chilling feeling came from every corner of my body. I shuddered and took a quick look at the surrounding environment. A small wet space. Just like a coffin. A strange thought came to my mind and continued to linger in my heart. Wow. The cover of this coffin is still transparent, I thought with a smile. The orange-yellow light from an unknown light source illuminated the entire small space. From this warm-toned light, I seemed to feel some illusory warmth. No, it's not illusory. I looked at the surrounding area in surprise. If my feeling is correct, this coffin is gradually heating up. Soon, the heating ended. Although I don't know the specific temperature. The environment at this time makes me feel very comfortable, and the panic in my heart slowly dissipates. Countless memory fragments began to flash in my originally blank brain. Proxima Centauri is about to go out, and human civilization is ready to start the second interstellar voyage. A huge fleet of long-distance ships hovered around Proxima B, blocking out the sun. I followed the crowd and came to a spacious and bright room. Then I lay down in a silver-white hibernation cabin. With a slight tingling pain. The picture in my memory was also interrupted. Now, have you successfully arrived at your destination? The moment the thought came to my mind, my heart beat violently. A new star system. A new home. Thinking of this, I couldn't hold back my excitement. I raised my head slightly and tried to observe the surrounding environment through the transparent cover of the hibernation cabin. In the hall full of technology, light curtains of unknown meaning flashed one after another. Wow, I sighed softly. This environment is much more advanced than it was back then. I subconsciously raised my hand and gently knocked on the transparent cover in front of me. Dang. Dang dang. A dull sound sounded. But the cover of the hibernation cabin was not opened. What's going on? No one responded to my inquiry. Is the hibernation chamber out of order? The panic that had just dissipated came back and filled my heart again. I raised my hand with difficulty and was about to knock on the transparent cover in front of me again. Ding. A slight buzzing sounded. A clear light screen appeared outside the transparent cover. This is holographic projection technology. I subconsciously compared it with the holographic projection in my memory. Obviously, the holographic image in front of me is more than one level more refined than the one in my memory. Name: Xiamingda. Identity: Citizen of the People's Union. Credit points: contribution value. I carefully looked at the data constantly presented in the holographic image. What time is it now? I murmured in a low voice. Hello, Mr. Xiamingda. It is November 5th, 2505 in the Earth calendar. We are located in the Gliese 555 star system, 17.55 light years away from Proxima Centauri, accompanied by electronic synthesized sound. A clear star map appeared in the holographic projection. 2505. I shouted in surprise. Why? How come it took so long? I panicked. I remember that I entered hibernation in 2210. Didn't they say that it would take less than 100 years to reach the next star system? Also, why don't you open the door of the hibernation cabin? Let me out. I raised my weak right hand again and gently patted the transparent cover in front of me. Please be patient. The electronic synthesized sound was as peaceful as ever. Next, I will briefly introduce the history of the human fleet in the past 300 years. In the year 2010 of the Earth calendar, the human fleet set off from Proxima b and headed for the Ross 154 star system. In the year 2275 of the Earth calendar, the human fleet was forced to set sail again and headed for the Gliese 555 star system. Looking at the rapidly flashing images in the holographic projection, my mood suddenly became excited when I saw the two-dimensional creature painting appear. I opened my mouth wide and exclaimed in surprise, "Fuck," when I learned that the human fleet was forced to leave Ross 154 and go to Gliese 555. I sighed softly. Humanity is too weak and can only be forced to flee in the face of other civilizations in the universe. Sad. When I saw the human fleet encounter the latter star pirate civilization and go to war with it, I clenched my fists. My heart seemed to be tightly grasped and I couldn't speak. But then, arriving at Gliese 555, planetary transformation, dawn, light moon, the technological level of human civilization is developing rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. These scenes came into my eyes, making me more and more excited. Then, can we live on dawn now? I asked softly in a trembling voice. Chapter 573 Memoirs. No response. The picture in the holographic projection continues, and the electronically synthesized sound does not pause at all. In the year 2501 of the Earth's calendar, painting has made a comeback. In the year 2503 of the Earth's calendar, the Sweeper civilization probe arrived at Gliese 555, and the war broke out. In the year 2505 of the Earth's calendar, the Botha civilization arrived, and war broke out again. In this war, the human fleet lost more than 2,600 Golden Crow battleships. I stared blankly at the cold lines of text, and my originally extremely exciting mood quickly cooled down. Then a bad thought emerged in my mind. Seemed purpose of this awakening was not what I imagined. The holographic projection screen was slightly dim. After a few seconds, several conspicuous Chinese characters appeared in front of my eyes. Tail docking plan. Looking at these four big characters, I just felt my heart skip a beat. Being born on Earth, I naturally understand the meaning of tail docking. The emotionless electronic synthesized voice introduced the contents of the tail docking plan in a calm tone. A chill slowly ran down my spine. I shivered violently. Even though the temperature in the hibernation chamber was kept constant, I couldn't feel any warmth. 1 billion people. This so-called tail docking plan actually costs a billion lives. Damn it. Is the Academy crazy? Is Parliament crazy? I banged on the transparent cover of the hibernation cabin, trying to escape from this cold coffin. Obviously, this thing is locked. I collapsed and looked at the Chinese characters on the holographic projection, cursing the Academy of Sciences and the Parliament crazily. According to the joint proposal of the Academy of Sciences and the Parliament, participants in the tail docking project will be included in the monument to the pioneers of human civilization. Next, please make your choice. Are you willing to become a member of the tail docking project and make your own contribution to the continuation of human civilization? Electronic synthesized sounds echoed in the small hibernation chamber. Damn it. Damn it. Exclamation mark. Damn it. No wonder the hibernation cabin has not been opened for a long time. I looked at the still words in the holographic projection in horror. They were like sharp knives, slowly reaching towards my throat. Chuck, cluck, cluck. I opened my mouth, but couldn't speak for a while. The only sound in the hibernation cabin was the sound of my teeth colliding up and down. A long time. Can I choose? No. I gasped and struggled to squeeze out a sentence through my fighting teeth. Of course, that's your right. The electronic synthesized voice quickly answered. Then I choose. I shouted loudly without any hesitation. But when the last word was about to come out, I hesitated. Now that I think about it, maybe this is fate. What were you thinking at the time? What? You ask me what I was thinking at that time? Haha. I have thought about it a lot. From the moment I can remember, everything is rushing through my mind. But what impressed me most was the scene where the disaster really began. I still remember that at that time, almost all the old people on the earth voluntarily gave up their qualifications to escape. The reason is just to slightly increase the success rate of escape for future generations. By the way, I was almost 50 years old at that time. I'm not afraid of your jokes. I'm afraid of death. It's human nature. Haha, fear of death is just fear of death, nothing common or unnatural. At that time, I boarded the escape spaceship, left the Earth, and headed for Proxima B. On Proxima B, lifespan technology has made a breakthrough, and I can continue to survive. Yes, according to the physical examination report, you can live for at least 300 years now. I know that I still have hundreds of years to live, and I don't need you to remind me. 300 years. I'm just an ordinary person, and my 300 years are not worth anything. What's more, I've been hibernating for so long. I'm old and can't keep up with the changes of the times. Do you hate the Academy of Sciences and Parliament? Hatred. It might be a bit annoying at first, but I soon stopped hating it. Why? I heard that the tail docking plan was proposed by Professor Lu. Yes. From the age of the Earth to the age of Proxima Centauri, and now, without Professor Lu, human civilization would have perished a long time ago. I can imagine how he felt when he made this decision. I can understand his choice. Really, I can understand it. I also support his choice. You are a hero. Hero? No, I'm not. I just thought of the choices of the older generation in the Earth age. After hundreds of years of going around in circles, human civilization seems to have returned to its original starting point. And I also became the older generation at that time. Inheritance. This is the inheritance of mankind, and the inheritance cannot be interrupted. Those old men could sacrifice themselves at that time, and of course I could sacrifice myself. 2. As long as this inheritance exists, human civilization cannot be destroyed. Do you have children? Have. I have a son and a daughter, both in the human fleet. Dragon and Phoenix twins? Are they all crew members? You are so blessed. Blessing. Haha. Go to TND for luck. I later found out that both of them died in the war with the both a civilization. Feel sorry. There is nothing to be sorry about. These two bastards just had bad luck. By the way, I have always wanted to ask, how many people chose to participate in the tail cutting plan? According to the data provided by the Academy of Sciences, about 3.5 billion people chose to participate in the tail cutting plan. Look, take a look. 3.5 billion, that's more than half. Close to half. How was it selected in the end? According to the Academy of Sciences, it was selected based on age, contribution value and a series of data, and selected by zero comprehensive evaluation. Even Professor Lu could not change the final result. Oh, this damn universe. Yes, this damn universe. Let me continue with the topic just now. Where was I? You haven't told me your final choice yet. The last choice. Yes, I will participate in the tail cutting plan. Please. Confirm again. Are you willing to participate in the tail cutting plan? Yes, I volunteer to participate. The willingness has been confirmed. The Human Union Academy of Sciences and the Parliament pay you the highest respect and thank you for your efforts. May the glory of mankind last forever. 2. Streams of heat suddenly slid down both sides of my cheeks. My vision has long been blurred, but I don't know why. The panic in my heart has dissipated. Suddenly, I heard an extremely strange and hoarse voice. I couldn't even believe that it was the voice coming from my mouth. May humanity last forever. PS. Happy New Year, dear readers. It's not too much to ask for a gift in the New Year JPG. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 574. It doesn't matter, we have it. Earth. The office was dark without lights on point. Only the faint blue light of the holographic projection illuminated the surrounding environment. A looming figure sat quietly behind the desk, with his elbows on the desk, silently watching the rapidly flashing words in the holographic projection. Suddenly, perhaps because the position of Earth had changed slightly, a ray of light from the main star Gliese 555 shone directly on the porthole of the office. Through the porthole, this warm light instantly dispelled the cold darkness in the office. Professor, the final candidate has been determined. At the same time, the electronic synthesized sound echoed in the office. Okay. The figure behind the desk moved and squeezed out a syllable with difficulty. Then, under the light of the main star, the slightly brighter office fell into silence again. LV Yongchang stared at the name slowly moving in the holographic projection and closed his eyes in some pain. Professor, Academician Yongchang is here. Let her go back. LV Yongchang's weak voice sounded. Don't open the door. Bang, bang, bang. The dull knock on the door interrupted LV Yongchang's words. You go back. LV Yongchang took a deep breath, cheered up a little, and shouted loudly, no. Yongchang's voice was slightly out of tune through the heavy hatch. You have been in the office for 3 days. No. Response. In the office, LV Yongchang was still staring at the names in the holographic projection in a daze. He tried to remember all these names in his mind. But, with a billion names, even his enhanced brain could hardly handle such a job. Don't forget, you are the chief scientist of the Human Union Academy of Sciences. The voice outside the door suddenly became stern. If you fall, what will happen to the remaining billions of humans? LV Yongchang trembled slightly, but still did not speak. I'll leave the food at the door. No matter what, you have to eat something. Yongchang's voice softened a little. Human Union, there is still hope. I know. LV Yongchang's eyes were slightly red, and he whispered softly, Professor, Academician Yongchang has left. The moment the electronic synthesized sound sounded, Zero's virtual image slowly emerged beside him. Your food was left at the door. Help me bring it in. LV Yongchang's eyes dimmed, and he sighed again and whispered, she is right. Human Union, there is still hope. We can't live up to the sacrifices of these 1 billion people. Click. The sound of the door opening sounded, and a robot walked towards the office door under Zero's control point. Just as LV Yongchang reached out and gently patted his cheek to cheer himself up a little, a message jumped out in front of him. Communication request. Professor, a communication request was sent from the direction of Proxima Centauri. Do you want to receive it? LV Yongchang put down the food he had just opened in his hand and frowned slightly. A communication request from the human civilization of Proxima. Looking at the information flashing rapidly in the holographic screen, LV Yongchang felt a jolt in his heart. It's really one wave after another at this critical moment. I don't know what happened to the human civilization of Proxima. A trace of imperceptible sadness flashed in LV Yongchang's eyes. Connected. 17.55 light years away. Proxima Galaxy. The light of the main star Proxima is very dim, and it is very difficult to dispel the darkness in this star system. Proxima B. Since hundreds of years ago, it has gradually become a silvery white frozen planet. One satellite after another silently revolves around this planet. In the distance, a huge ray starship slowly approached. It came from the gas giant planet in the Proxima Galaxy to replenish fusion fuel for the few remaining surface cities on Proxima B. Time is like a knife. Hundreds of years have left a very strong mark on Ray, but it still follows the original program and travels back and forth between the two planets without any effort. Proxima B. Central City. The roads, facilities, and buildings in the city are all covered with a sense of heaviness brought by the passage of time. The central city has not changed for hundreds of years. Not only the central city, but also the surrounding cities have hardly changed in the past hundreds of years. Proxima Human Parliament Building. Ren Feng, you are looking for me. A familiar voice came from an office deep inside. Behind the desk, a middle-aged man with grey hair had a faint bitter smile on his face, waved his hand gently and said, Zhenking, sit down. Do you remember what I said to you at that time, Zhang? Zhenking's breath was slightly choked, and the relaxed expression on his face instantly became solemn. He was silent for a moment, then nodded gently. Of course I remember, Zhang. Zhenking looked at the middle-aged man in front of him with a complex expression. Have you thought it through? Ren Feng did not respond to Zhang Zhenking's question immediately, but raised his hand to operate the holographic projection beside him. Take a look. He skillfully called up a document and displayed it in front of Zhang Zhenking. This is the latest document from the human fleet. Zhang Zhenking glanced at Ren Feng suspiciously and then focused his attention on the holographic projection in front of him. The moment he saw the title, he suddenly widened his eyes. Broken tail plan. These 4 words immediately made him have bad thoughts. He didn't have time to think about it, nor did he have time to ask. He just swiped the holographic interface and read it carefully. Crazy. Professor Liu is crazy. Zhang Zhenking's hands trembled slightly, and he murmured in a low voice, 1 billion people. This is 1 billion people. Sacrifice them like this for the survival of more people. Ren Feng smiled with relief and whispered, they did the same thing at the beginning. Zhang Zhenking's voice suddenly paused. He knew what Ren Feng meant by this sentence. More than 200 years ago, when the disaster struck, when the surface cities of Proxima B were in chaos, those old people also voluntarily gave up the chance to survive. Recalling the scene at that time, Zhang Zhenking's stiff face suddenly softened a little. Maybe this is the inheritance of mankind. What a pity. Zhang Zhenking murmured with a sigh. In today's Proxima human civilization, there may not be many people who have this kind of inheritance. Ren Feng was silent for a while, and then said in an extremely firm tone, it doesn't matter. It's enough for us to have it. Chapter 575. Filling the gaps. Zhang Zhenking's eyes widened suddenly, and his eyes were filled with confusion. What on earth do you want to do? Ren Feng narrowed his slightly wrinkled eyes. Help them complete their tail docking plan. You should have noticed there are loopholes in the selection of the tail docking plan. Zhang Zhenking was silent for a moment and nodded with difficulty. Perhaps because they are reluctant to part with the new generation, the candidates for the tail docking plan are basically the older generation. This is not the demographic structure that a normal civilization should have, let alone deceiving those higher civilizations. Even we can't deceive them. Ren Feng whispered to himself, it's normal. The new generation is the hope of civilization after all. Sacrificing the older generation was no problem in the past, but now it is far from enough. Zhang Zhenking moved his lips, but did not say any words. Moreover, they chose Dawnstar as the location for the tail docking plan. Ren Feng shook his head. This is not good. We clearly just won the war. Why did we suddenly become extinct under the 2-dimensional fragments? This doesn't make sense. You mean to use Proxima B as the implementation location of the tail docking plan? Zhang Zhenking's voice was extremely hoarse. Ren Feng said nothing, but glanced at Zhang Zhenking. Zhang Zhenking's body trembled suddenly. What kind of look is this? Indifference, disappointment, helplessness, but deep down, there is a hint of hope. Zhang Zhenking's eyes flashed with fear, and words of opposition were already on his lips, but several images emerged in his mind involuntarily. On that day, the main star gradually dimmed, Proxima Centauri B turned into an ice ball, and the surrounding resources gradually became scarce. On that day, Proxima Centauri failed to reform, and fell into war. On that day, the new generation no longer looked up at the stars, but instead turned their attention to the only space in the surface city. That day, he swallowed hard, and swallowed the words on his lips. Human civilization on Proxima Centauri has no way out. Ren Feng's voice came softly. Although I was born from Proxima Centauri, I have heard an ancient saying from the Earth Age. If You don't break out in silence, you will perish in silence. Instead of declining due to resource depletion, it is better to burn yourself and light the way forward for them. The moment he finished speaking, the memory of being in the Proxima Centauri holographic theater reappeared in Ren Feng's mind. Grandpa, he whispered in a low voice like a mosquito. What you didn't do at that time, I will do it for you. Zhang King seemed to have thought again of the scene of those old people running towards death with a smile. His eyes turned slightly red, and he nodded fiercely. Okay, I agree. It's just that if we want to help them complete their tail docking plan, our population is too small. The smile on Ren Feng's face showed a trace of madness. It's okay. Did you forget about the social care center? There are enough germ cells there. Boom. There was a dull sound at the door. Who? Ren Feng's expression changed drastically, and he shouted sharply. There was no response, just a series of extremely rapid footsteps. Ren Feng subconsciously turned his head and looked at Zhang Zhenking. The two did not speak and only relied on their eyes to communicate with each other. Apostrophe Broken. What to do? Once this news is leaked, the consequences will be disastrous. Backquote, having managed the Proxima Centauri civilization for so long, no one knows the humans of Proxima Centauri at this time better than they do. They have almost forgotten the glory of mankind and just want to eat and die in the surface cities. Trying to get these people to understand the inherent spirit of human civilization is tantamount to fanciful talk. Gradually, Ren Feng's somewhat crazy eyes gradually infected Zhang Zhenking. Facing Ren Feng's gaze, Zhang Zhenking's eyes gradually became filled with murderous intent, and he nodded vigorously. Then, Zhang Zhenking suddenly stood up from his seat and walked towards the office door. Notify all troops. In front of him, the holographic projection screen flickered with light. Behind him is a cold seat. Ren Feng listened to the piercing sirens outside the building and slowly lowered his eyes. Help me contact the human fleet. Okay, Mr. Speaker. Electronic synthesized voice sounded. The communication link is being established. Please wait. No, Lu. Yongchang slammed the table and became furious. This is a matter for the human fleet, and there is no need for your Proxima Centauri human civilization to interfere. Please, wake up. We will fix the flaws in the tail docking plan immediately. Leading the development of civilization well is what you should do, Professor. I'm awake. Ren Feng's voice came from the speaker. It's not just me. Zhang Zhenking also agreed to this proposal. Listen carefully. The army has begun to take action. Next, the urban care center will lift all restrictions. At the same time, all personnel currently on Proxima B will be forced to hibernate, waiting for the final moment. I've done the math for you. From now on, when the home ships and dimensional strike ships of the human fleet arrive at Proxima Centauri, there will be at least 500 million humans on Proxima Centauri B, according to the calculation results provided by Zhang Zhenking. Our resources should be enough to last until the fleet arrives. In order to improve the age distribution of the tail cutting plan, these 500 million humans will not receive life extension transformation, and they will become the last piece of the tail cutting plan. You are confused. LV Yongchang was shocked and angry. Do you know what you are doing? You are committing a crime. In the picture, Ren Feng smiled. It was a bright smile. Professor, you know in your heart that there is no hope for human civilization on Proxima Centauri. In fact, it is difficult for us to maintain the normal life of these 500 million humans for a long time. Professor. The smile on Ren Feng's face gradually faded. The plan has begun. You don't have to send a fleet, but the countdown to the demise of human civilization on Proxima Centauri has started. Let us play the last role. Ren Feng's eyes showed some pleading. Human civilization cannot perish. The holographic communication interface disappeared instantly. Connection interrupted. Looking at the flashing words in front of him, LV Yongchang leaned back on the chair with a pale face. Zero. Can you control the central computer of Proxima civilization? As if he remembered something, he stood up suddenly and shouted, stop their behavior immediately, trying to establish a connection. The electronic synthesized voice sounded. A glimmer of hope rose in LV Yongchang's eyes, but the next second, this glimmer of hope was shattered. The Other party has physically cut off and cannot establish a connection. Zeros. Electronic synthesized voice was extremely cold, as if sentencing the human civilization of proximate death. PS. Thanks to Yi Guanguan for his Great God certification. Thanks to the 10th Art for his 4 Great God certifications. I owe 1 chapter first. It's really too late to write. Next time. JPG. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.